After 20 long years of fighting in another dimension, Juyon finally defeats the Demon King and saves the continent. Exhausted but relieved, he smiles knowing his long hero duty is done and he can finally go home. The giant goddess appears, commending him for choosing to save the world once again. Juyon double-checks with her to make sure she is actually sending him back to modern Earth this time. She confirms that his long campaign is over and she will send him home. He points out that he gave up 2 decades of his life and asks for some compensation, like keeping his magic or memories. Realizing arguing with a deity is pointless, our boy sighs and tells her to just send him back already. Divine magic envelops Juyon as the goddess secretly bestows God's fragment onto him. She tells him that even without his old stats, the world will shift according to his will. When he asks if she can at least give him a hint on how that works, she flat-out denies him. Without giving him time to argue, she literally flicks him into a dimensional vortex. Juyon yells that he was not done talking as he vanishes into the dimensional rift. A flash of white light marks his drop back onto Earth. He wakes up in his old apartment, groggy and blocking out the bright morning sun. He grabs his smartphone and notices it is already past 9 a.m. His screen is filled with angry missed texts from his store manager, reminding him that his shift started at 7. Our guy sprints down the street in a panic, realizing he is super late. He bows repeatedly at the convenience store, desperately apologizing to his angry boss. Later during his shift, he leans on the counter stressing about his overdue rent and terrible finances. Sulking behind the counter, Juyon wishes he could just awaken as a user to escape poverty. Suddenly, a system window pops up announcing the activation of his unique X-grade trait, Skill Master. Juyon stares in complete shock as he realizes God's fragment just awakened him. It has been 5 years since augmented reality and system windows integrated into modern Earth. Dungeon gates and monster fields appeared everywhere, changing the world economy. Everyone wants to awaken as a user because conquering fields is the fastest way to get rich. At the top of the world stands the #1 ranker, Mohammed Al, possessor of the SS-grade trait Dragon Speech. Mohammed Al posts a new video online that instantly gets millions of views and comments. People all over the streets tune in on their phones to watch what the top ranker uploaded. Students in class gather around a screen, completely glued to the footage. The video shows him preparing to cast the ultimate spell every mage dreams of. Giant meteors tear through the sky and crash onto the field. The students watch with their jaws dropped at the sheer scale of the attack. They argue over how anyone can solo an A-grade field using that much power. The meteor strike triggers a firestorm that wipes out every monster on the field. Mohammed Al stands calmly amidst the defeated boss monsters without taking a scratch. He looks into the camera and announces a challenge, offering his SS-grade artifact, the Elemental Ring, to anyone who can present a stronger spell within a week. He holds out his hand to display the legendary artifact on video. The video ends on a close-up of the Elemental Ring, driving the internet crazy. Back at the convenience store, Juyon watches the challenge video on his phone. As he finishes watching the spell footage, a sudden realization hits him. His system window flashes a notification that the skill copying conditions have been met. Juyon gasps when he sees that Skill Master allows him to replicate skills just by watching video recordings. He trembles in disbelief as the SS-grade Meteor Rain skill registers to his account. He looks down at his hands to test if the magic flow is real. A spark of elemental fire instantly manifests in his palm. Realizing the potential, he immediately starts searching up clips of top rankers across the internet. He watches a master swordsman execute a high-level slash on video. In a matter of minutes, our goat binges dozens of combat videos and copies an entire arsenal of high-tier skills. Now fully stacked with top-tier abilities, Juyon steps out onto the city street. He pulls up his hoodie with his eyes glowing, ready to register officially. He walks confidently toward the User Association building. He navigates through the crowded lobby filled with heavily armored users. At the front desk, the receptionist asks him to place his hand on the measurement orb to test his magic capacity. The moment he touches it, his copied magic power completely overloads the testing orb in a blinding flash. In this world, unique traits basically act like RPG classes, giving users massive specialized boosts. Take top rankers like Muhammad Al, whose dragon speech trait gives him magic firepower that outclasses actual dragons. Then there's Miracle, a saintly support trait said to literally bring people back from the dead. Or Regeneration, turning tanks into unstoppable juggernauts that can regrow entire limbs mid-fight. And Lethal Strike gives frontline warriors the pure burst damage needed to tear through any defense. Back in his room, Ju-yeon sits at his desk doing some deep online research into how these traits actually work. He learns that higher-grade traits come with stronger passive effects and extra subtraits. Curious about his own setup, our boy opens his status window while digging into a cup of instant noodles. He sighs in disappointment, realizing he still has the trait but zero stats to back it up. The system window details his X-grade skill master trait, showing he gets a passive income of 10 SB every single day. Ju-yeon stares at the screen, scratching his chin, wondering what SB even stands for. He slumps in his chair, totally unsure if this trait is actually good or just a useless gimmick. Suddenly, a tutorial quest pops up offering 20 SB if he activates his skill copy ability. He laughs it off nervously, knowing going into a real combat zone with base stats of 1 is just asking to die. Instead, he decides to play it safe and start browsing high-ranker combat videos online. That's when a tutorial event alert pops up, revealing a special map that temporarily boosts all his stats by 999. Right after, the system asks if he wants to copy Muhammad Al's SS-grade Meteor Rain skill straight off the video. Ju-yeon's jaw drops as he realizes his trait lets him steal skills directly from recorded footage. Meanwhile, top ranker Muhammad Al is relaxing in his penthouse robe with a glass of wine. His secretary Lee Soo-yeon steps in, asking if he's really serious about giving away an SS-grade elemental ring. Al takes a sip, curious about the odds of someone else pulling off his exact skill so fast. Soo-yeon questions if the video was staged, but Al insists the mysterious user definitely holds an SS-grade trait. Al smirks behind his glass, totally confident that this unknown person is the real deal. He points to the luxury box on the table, telling her to deliver the ring alongside his business card. The next day at his convenience store shift, Ju-yeon checks his phone and sees his skill clip going completely viral. He gets so distracted checking his video completion alert that a little kid startles him asking for candy. The kid jumps up and down at the counter, trying to get his attention. Ju-yeon snaps back to reality, only to find his boss standing right beside him with arms crossed. Our boy panics and bows repeatedly, frantically answering the customer to avoid getting fired on the spot. Once the manager leaves, Ju-yeon slumps onto the counter in pure exhaustion. Laying his head down, he starts doubting if a top ranker would actually follow through and give away an SS-grade item. Still, he can't help daydreaming about becoming as famous and powerful as Muhammad Al. He stretches his arms with renewed energy, feeling like his life is finally turning around. A loud ding rings out from his phone on the counter. Ju-yeon stares in total shock as Al personally confirms in the comments that the reward is legitimate. Soon after, Secretary Lee Soo-yeon meets him at a cafe to hand over the promised ring. Ju-yeon slips the sleek silver elemental ring onto his finger. Back home on his bed, he lies down staring at his hand, still unable to believe it's real. He sits up instantly when he sees the ring boosted his magic stat by 40, giving him the stats he needs to hunt. He heads to his desk, realizing he still needs to buy proper gear before stepping into a real field. Ju-yeon grimaces as he realizes cashing out his video views requires identity verification he can't risk. With no easy money in sight, he laces up his sneakers and decides to make money the hard way. Our boy sets up a sign near the field entrance, offering paid C-grade healing services. He settles down on a mat at the D-grade swamp field in Seoul Grand Park, hoping for customers. To pass the time while sitting in the quiet spot, he pulls out his phone to check the news. He chuckles to himself, confident that nothing dangerous could possibly happen outside a designated field. Suddenly, an intimidating, blood-stained figure with glowing eyes appears right behind him. Ju-yeon freezes mid-laugh as a terrifying chill runs down his spine. An armored hunter comes rushing in, carrying a severely injured female hunter who needs urgent medical attention. Ju-yeon gets pretty thrown off by the guy barking demands at him right off the bat. He reminds himself that even though his spell is copied, it is still a C-grade recovery skill with solid perks, so he demands cash up front. Once the payment is settled, our boy reaches out to cast his spell over the woman's severed limb. Looking at her lying on the ground in critical condition, the situation is clearly life or death. The hunter screams at him to hurry up, making Ju-yeon flinch under the pressure. Ju-yeon admits to himself that he has only ever seen injuries like this in movies, making his heart race. He locks in and focuses his mana, determined to pull off light of recovery. A warm holy light envelops the woman, successfully knitting her flesh back together and regenerating her arm. Completely drained after the cast, Ju-yeon collapses onto his bedding, exhaling a sigh of relief. While counting his cash, he notices his elemental ring granted a 20% bonus mana recovery rate that saved him from passing out. Lying back with a smirk, he realizes this payday changes everything. Celebrating his new wealth, Ju-yeon starts firing cash everywhere with a money gun. Later, relaxing in a luxury penthouse bathrobe, he ponders how to invest all his new money. Enjoying some yogurt on his massive hotel bed, he turns his focus toward earning skill points for growth. A system tutorial quest pops up, prompting him to upgrade his passive income sub-trait. The reward for completing the tutorial is 100 skill points and unlocking a second sub-trait slot. Ju-yeon realizes that spending skill points is the key to leveling up traits directly. He strikes a dramatic pose, totally motivated to finish this system quest as fast as possible. Opening his system window, he checks his stash and sees he currently holds 70 skill points. Since passive income generates 10 points daily, he calculates that he only needs 3 days to hit his goal. A door chime interrupts his math as room service arrives at his suite entrance. Feeling pumped, Ju-yeon decides to spend his downtime researching strong skills to copy next. He boots up his video player to start browsing through high-tier hunter footage online. While digging into a massive feast, he notices S-grade skills are barely ever uploaded to the public internet. He keeps in mind that copied skills expire at midnight unless he saves their source videos for recopying. That makes him wonder if leveling up his trait will eventually let him keep copied skills permanently. To stay organized, he starts sorting spells like Ice Spear and Explosion into custom playlists. He cheerfully completes his official healer registration with the user association. Sprawled out on the bed, he smiles thinking about how valuable a multi-class user like him will become. Suddenly, a stunning woman approaches him outside to express her gratitude. Ju-yeon sits on the floor staring up at her in total confusion. He gives her a hilarious flat rejection face, convinced she has the wrong guy. She chuckles and reminds him that her brother brought her to him for healing just a few days ago. She offers a warm, gentle smile, deeply relieved that she got the chance to thank him in person. Curious about his setup, she asks if Ju-yeon currently belongs to any active hunting party. When she asks him to fill a temporary healer spot, Ju-yeon breaks into a sweat, terrified of entering real field combat. She sweetly invites him to grab coffee and discuss the details together. Completely flustered by her charm, my guy blushes and stammers out his acceptance. He realizes that jumping into a party raid might be way too dangerous for his current base level. He remembers that hunters constantly get wrecked by status ailments in higher-grade dungeons. The woman grabs him in a panic, begging him to help treat her injured teammate on the spot. Juyeon rushes over in chibai form, scrambling to patch up the fallen fighter with his recovery magic. Terrified by how close to death they came in a D-grade field, Juyeon packs up his mat and bolts. He sprints away with his cash, swearing to gather enough money and skill points to become a top-tier mage before joining another party. Juyeon kicks back in his luxury penthouse with a glass of wine, enjoying the high life after making bank. He checks his system window right at midnight, seeing his passive SB ticking up. Without missing a beat, he taps the screen to invest 100 SB into upgrading passive income to level 2. Seeing his daily SB payout jump 5-fold instantly gets him hype. Unlocking the tutorial reward grants him trait bestowal, which automatically attaches a random unique trait to every skill he copies. Usually, copied magic lacks the punch of the original user because skill books do not give you their unique traits. While his tutorial meteor was a crazy exception, normal copied skills usually lag behind without proper traits. Now that trait bestowal solves that drawback, our boy realizes his skill copying is completely broken. He sits cross-legged on his bed, pulling out his phone to test how these random traits actually work. Right on cue, a new tutorial quest pops up, asking him to defeat 20 monsters using a copied skill. Juyeon chuckles, convinced someone is watching him in real time and feeding him quests. He scrolls through online battle clips until he finds a solid E-rank fireball demonstration. He activates skill copy, snagging the basic fireball spell. Flames erupt around his hands in the living room as trait bestowal triggers, granting the skill an F-rank ignition trait that adds extra burn damage. Gearing up in a hooded cloak, Juyeon head out to the Daegwalyeong sheep farm hunting field to test his new setup. He pulls up his hood and steps right through the blue energy barrier, dividing reality from the monster zone. Word quickly spreads online about a mysterious fire psycho terrifying the field. Juyeon checks his phone back home, laughing off forum posts claiming he turned down guild offers because he hated the nickname. In reality, he just ran away crying in disappointment after turning down that top-tier female hunter earlier. Back in the field, he goes full maniac, grinning while blasting charging bull monsters with non-stop fireballs. He admits to himself that melting mobs so effortlessly was honestly way too addicting. Wiping out the 20 monsters completes his quest, netting him 200 SB and unlocking a 10% mana cost reduction subtrait. That extra mana discount was all the motivation my guy needed to keep grinding nonstop. Scanning the local forums on his laptop, he spots a post about a D-rank Obsidian bear boss raid. With his mana boosted by his ring and discounted by his system, he knows he can spam high-damage magic all day. He locks in on the boss raid video feed to study his next target. Inside the forest field, the Obsidian bear lets out a deafening roar as a struggle beginner party gets pushed to the brink. The raid leader desperately commands his tanks and DPS to hold positions while guarding the backline mages. Just as the party falters, Juyeon gets a new tutorial quest offering 500 SB to take down a field boss. Juyeon smirks under his hood, perfectly fine with letting the system use him for quest fodder. The Obsidian bear breaks through the front line and lunges straight for the helpless tank. Before the bear can crush him, a burst of flame explodes right in the monster's face. The frontline hunters look around in utter shock as the attack gets cut short. Juyeon casually steps out from the trees, casually balancing a mini fireball on his fingertip. He unleashes a volley of fireballs that slam directly into the roaring beast. My goat keeps firing off spells with zero delay, stacking continuous burn damage on the boss. The raid party can only stand frozen in silence as the massive bear gets melted into nothing. The party members exchange bewildered looks, completely unable to process what just happened. Suddenly, the fallen beast twitches and lets out another roar, triggering a special berserk phase. The bear's roar inflicts a stat debuff on everyone in the area, dropping the frontline's strength so low they can barely hold their swords. While the rest of the party panics on the ground, Juyon remains completely untouched, watching from a distance. The system hits him with a bonus quest, offering 200 SB if he copies the boss's special skill. He opens his UI, targeting the roaring bear to execute a monster skill copy. He steals the B-rank skill roar of the obsidian bear, instantly clearing the quest. With the special skill copied, he finishes off the berserk boss once and for all, watching its body dissolve into light. He collects his massive 500 SB boss reward, bringing his total stockpile to over 1,000 SB. Before the stunned party can even ask for his name, our boy slips into the forest shadows and vanishes into the night. Juyon smirks as system alerts start flashing across his screen, pumping his stats up right when it counts. The obsidian bear boss towers over the exhausted hunter party, ready to tear them apart. Without missing a beat, Juyon sparks a fresh flame on his fingertip. With his silver elemental ring equipped, he points skyward as magic gathers. He unleashes a massive pillar of fire, burning the screeching field boss to a crisp while the frontline tank watches in total shock. As notifications confirm the boss is down, our boy gets rewarded with a new subtrait called Boss Collector, letting him absorb boss souls to copy their unique skills. Watching the boss dissolve gives Juyon a total rush of confidence. The giant bear head slams onto the grass as the magic clears around the party. The beginner hunters burst out cheering, completely blown away by that absurd burst of fire. Juyon pulls his brown hood down low to keep a low profile while they shower him with praise. Green energy swirls around everyone as Juyon absorbs the obsidian bear's soul. He checks out his silver ring, realizing absorbing a boss soul gives him a permanent strength bump. System rules explain that field bosses scale at least 10 levels higher than the surrounding area. And if high-level players step in to help lower parties, the system contribution rules wipe out the corpse completely without dropping loot. That is why hunters take high risks for field bosses, because the paydays are absurd. The raid leader lifts up a pair of glowing gauntlets that dropped right out of the boss. Between rare drop items, piles of gold, and high-grade materials, field bosses are basically walking gold mines. Juyon pumps his fist in secret, stoked that his base strength stat finally hit 2. The female hunter calls out to Juyon to bring him back over to the group. He rubs the back of his neck with a goofy grin as the team celebrates their raid success. The leader admits he expected casualties when the bear went berserk, but Juyon's fire kept everyone safe. To check what they won, the raid leader opens up the item appraisal status screen. The pitch-black dragon gauntlets give great stat boosts, but the low-health berserk condition is super tricky to use safely. Juyon sweats under his hood, thinking fighting below 30% health is basically asking to die. Suddenly, a boss item hunter in a white suit shows up flanked by 2 huge bodyguards. These high-end brokers buy up boss drop gear on the spot for absurd amounts of money. Juyon watches in silence, amazed by how deep the player market really goes. The room goes quiet as the buyer prepares his cash offer. The bodyguard pops open a briefcase, overflowing with stacks of cash bill bundles. Juyon's jaw drops as his eyes turn into dollar signs. Back in the city dressed in his gray sweatshirt, Juyon sits sulking on public steps with a cardboard sign offering cheap heals. He realizes earning small cash from basic heals takes way too long to buy real combat gear. He remembers going to an armor shop where the saleswoman showed off an E-rank leather armor set. The price tag was an absurd 63 million won. He ran out of the shop crying tears while the clerk cheered him on from the door. Realizing gear is out of his budget for now, he decides he needs to focus on upgrading his skills to farm boss monsters directly. He imagines going on a wild rampage, burning through fields of monsters to cash in. Juyon stretches out on the plaza steps, ready to optimize his build. My guy pulls up his floating status interface with a confident smirk. He daydreams about being a cool swordsman slicing through monsters, but knows magic keeps him safer from a distance. Juyeon taps the screen, dumping all 7 unassigned stat points straight into magic power, raising it to 48. Next, he opens up his main skill tree UI to allocate his stockpiled SB points. He checks the passive node details, boosting his overall elemental damage output. Then he inspects the Fire Affinity branch to lower his mana costs for continuous casting. Juyeon taps rapidly, maxing out his flame magic passives to boost his fireball damage. He enhances the Ignite skill, ensuring target burn damage ticks way harder and lasts longer. He double-checks the connected skill pathways to unlock higher-tier fire magic. That unlocks Flame Pillar, giving him a massive area of effect spell for crowd control. He upgrades the area radius, making sure he can wipe out multiple enemies at once. Finally, he puts points into speed passives so he can kite monsters while solo farming. With the science system text reflecting in his eyes, Juyeon grins, knowing his new build is built for high-yield boss hunting. His updated active skill list fills out with heavy elemental magic. Juyeon swipes his hand down, closing the floating system windows. The glowing UI panels dissolve into fading light particles around him. Fully upgraded and ready to make real money, our boy sets his sights on hunting an E-rank field boss next. His final stat page confirms his magic power is now sitting at a solid 48. And with his skill master skill tree locked in, Juyeon is officially ready for his next big raid payday. While Juyeon is trying to sell his 5-hour EXP buff for a cool $1,000,000, high-ranker Kim Haijai walks up with a smile and offers to be his first customer. She immediately buys the buff for herself and her armored tank partner. Juyeon happily welcomes them, holding up his handwritten sign to seal the deal. The moment the 5% EXP buff kicks in, the status timer confirms it is 100% legit. Haijai slips Juyeon her S-rank business card, telling him to give her a call later. She explains that her party is stacked on damage and tanking, but they are desperately missing a skilled healer. Before leaving, she turns to the plaza and yells out that Juyeon's 5-hour buff is the real deal. That single shout instantly swarms our boy, with dozens of desperate players waving stacks of cash. As Haijai and her tank partner walk away, the tank asks why she keeps approaching a gearless newbie. He points out that Juyeon looks like a total amateur who just got lucky. Haijai just smiles and reminds him of how their party is set up. She explains that with her handling burst damage and him tanking, finding a reliable support is their only real bottleneck. She remembers how Juyeon pulled off that insane miracle heal back when his stats were practically 0. Her partner is still skeptical, insisting the guy is just an ungeared novice. Haijai just smirks as she gets ready to clear out the local field mobs. A horde of lizard men comes charging right at them. She instantly incinerates the entire group with a fire blast. She knows that scouting potential high-tier rankers early is how you stay ahead of the game. Meanwhile, Juyeon takes his hard-earned cash straight to the shop and equips Krekta's leather armor set for a nice stat boost. Feeling like a genius, our boy marvels at how much sweeter passive income is compared to actual work. He opens his UI and levels up passive income to level 2, guaranteeing 200 skill points every single night at midnight. He celebrates his new free daily points with pure joy. Then he checks the price tags for higher-tier skill upgrades and sees Trait Bestowal Level 2 costs 2,000 points. His face completely falls when he realizes the next skill copy upgrade requires 4,000 points. Passers-by give him weird looks as he stands in the street, frantically mathing out a 49-day wait time. Realizing passive waiting takes way too long, Juyeon decides he needs to go hunt field bosses to farm points directly. Since his face is already famous as a high-tier healer, he throws on his brown hooded cloak and glasses to play the mysterious master once again. He travels to Garoram Bay, instantly regretting his life choices as his boots sink into the deep mud. He fondly misses the nice, clean grass back at the sheep ranch, He complains about system-level limits forcing him to slog through low-rank mudflats just to collect boss souls. Despite community guides warning players to never join random pickup groups for field bosses, Juyeon just chuckles and ignores the advice. The moment he actually meets his pickup party, he instantly wants to go home. The party members are completely ignoring the raid and aggressively flirting with each other. Juyeon stands there in utter disbelief, wondering if he accidentally signed up for a group date instead of a boss fight. One of the guys turns around disappointed, realizing Juyeon is actually a dude. Juyeon panics, realizing his cute inverted username tricked everyone into thinking he was a girl. He calculates the room dynamic and realizes he completely ruined their perfect 5 versus 5 gender ratio. An intensely awkward silence washes over the entire group. Trying to save the mood, the blonde raid leader steps up and kicks off the boss strategy briefing. He holds up a finger to highlight the single most important rule for the Garoram Bay boss. He explains that the mudflat crab gets faster every single time it takes a debuff, so nobody is allowed to inflict status effects. Juyeon listens closely, his mind immediately racing. He realizes that if debuffs trigger a massive stat increase, the boss must have a soul skill that converts debuffs into raw power. Suddenly, the mud erupts as a horrifying giant maw with rows of razor teeth bursts out of the ground. The massive mudflat crab looms over the mudflat crater, ready to start the battle. The raid leader charges straight in, swinging his sword to draw the monster's attention. The rest of the party jumps into action, unleashing their opening attacks. The giant crab snaps its massive claws, easily fending off the incoming strikes. It slams its heavy shell down, throwing the entire frontline off balance. The party scatters through the mud, struggling to maintain their formation. The boss turns its attention toward the ranged attackers, preparing to strike. Chaos breaks out as the raid members scramble to dodge the crab's aggressive counterattacks. The leader shouts orders, trying to pull the boss's threat back onto himself. The mudflat crab thrashes wildly, completely dominating the battlefield terrain. Juyeon watches from a distance, calmly analyzing the boss's movement patterns. He waits for the perfect moment to exploit the crab's unique skill mechanic. With the raid party on the ropes, our boy prepares to step in and turn this mess into his next big payout. The mudflat crab suddenly turns and changes direction right in the middle of the fight. Meanwhile, the rest of the raid group tries to hold their positions as the battle gets messier. Juyeon figures out that the boss gets stronger as more buffs and debuffs stack up on it. Psychopath calls for physical attacks, while Juyeon wonders why the main tank is standing back here. The archers fire a full volley from range to chip down the boss without risking extra debuffs. The crab just stands there completely unbothered, making Juyeon realize this fight is moving way too slow. Realizing they need a huge push, Juyeon gets ready to step up and handle things himself. Hyaju talks with Psychopath about taking her turn to drop some support. Hyaju enthusiastically casts her heart-filled buff to power up the team. Juyeon decides to ignore their cringe roleplay and focus on his own spell setup. Bright magic sparks surge all around Juyeon as he unleashes his hidden buff. Juyeon gets caught totally off guard when a high-tier system notification pops up in front of him. The system reveals Radiant Power, an SS-rank skill that dumps massive random buffs at a huge mana cost. Psychopath and Hyaju end up completely covered in glowing golden energy. A store clerk asks Juyeon if he happens to record combat footage for video platforms. Juyeon frantically claps his hands and denies being any kind of online streamer. The clerk explains how popular UserTube cameras have become for hunters recording field raids. Juyeon adjusts his hood, glad he actually brought a camera gear set up to analyze boss skills. He stacks change resistance alongside radiant power to turn every single buff into raw stats. Watching his power skyrocket in real time, our boy cannot hide his excitement. Hyaju is completely amazed that a buffer this absurd is hanging out in a pickup party. Psychopath draws his sword, covered in fire, ready to draw the boss's aggro. Juyeon simply points his finger and launches a fireball straight into the target. Flames completely coat the mudflat crab's massive shell. Juyeon reaches out with golden embers crackling across his hand. A massive shockwave rips through the mudflat, scattering debris everywhere. The system breaks down explosion, detailing how its chain effect stacks bonus damage on overlapping targets. The archers stop and sniff the air, noticing a surprisingly delicious smell drifting over. The mudflat crab is left cooked bright red right in the middle of the mudflat. The whole raid party stands there in total silence, staring at the giant grilled crab. Psychopath panics and tells everyone to watch out for a desperation attack. He pokes the shell with his blade, confirming the boss is already completely dead. Psychopath gives a big thumbs up as Juyeon gets a permanent stat boost notification. The system confirms that change resistance has officially been registered to Juyeon's boss skill list. Satisfied with his loot, Juyeon claps his hands together and announces he is heading home. Hyaju and Psychopath press him, convinced his unique trait has to be at least O or S rank. The other party members crowd around, thanking him for the hard carry and asking for his phone number. Psychopath tries to calm everyone down so they can handle the loot distribution properly. Psychopath dramatically cries while begging Hyaju not to leave his side too. Hyaju completely ignores him and insists that Juyeon should get the biggest cut of the loot. The rest of the team willingly gives up their shares, agreeing that Juyeon earned it all. A buyer agent quietly turns and walks off to search for the next boss raid. Hyaju turns around to hand over the rewards, only to find empty air. Hyaju looks around in complete disbelief as she realizes Juyeon vanished. Juyeon reappears deep in the forest, pulling his hooded cloak close to stay hidden. He collapses flat onto the grass, letting out a tired sigh after the long day. Lying back, my guy tries to figure out how long it will take to level up his sample skill. System notifications confirm that both Radiant Power and Change Resistance are currently active. Juyeon realizes that without level 3 sample, his skill copy slots are bottlenecking his options. He sprawls out on the ground like a defeated chibai, completely drained. Juyeon comically whines to the sky, hoping an administrator will drop a high-reward quest. He pulls up his translucent blue status board to review his full stats. Juyeon taps the interface to check the massive SB cost required for his next node upgrade. Doing the math, he figures it will take another full week of daily grinding to get the SB he needs. Juyeon considers taking on high-rank party commissions to speed up his progression. He picks himself up and starts walking down the quiet forest path. Sunlight filters through the trees as he heads back toward the city. Juyeon reflects on how differently his dimensional abilities function in this world. He resolves to grow much stronger before bigger threats start showing up. With his next goal set, our boy heads off to face whatever raid comes next. News reports broadcast flight suspensions nationwide as mysterious floating sky islands block out sunlight. Lower-rank hunters complain on live television that level caps are keeping them out of the new field portals. Juyeon walks through the crowded city streets while keeping an eye on breaking news updates on his phone. He checks the details and sees B-class special fields popping up with high-level monsters overrunning major cities. Passing by a government briefing, Juyeon catches wind of official raid announcements. The User Association spokesman announces active state backing to clear special fields as fast as possible. They even plan to post lucrative government bounties specifically for clearing Sky Island Kinal. Targeting that bounty, our boy heads straight to the user shop to upgrade his equipment. While resting inside, Juyeon opens his system interface to plan out a massive 14,000 SB skill tree investment. He realizes completing the main quest will give him enough points to boost all his subtraits by another level. The shop clerk returns carrying a luxury velvet box with the items he requested. Inside sits the cursed mana ring and bracelet set, giving a huge mana boost in exchange for minor stat drops. Juyeon calculates that adding 400 mana brings his total pool up to a comfortable 1510. He figures maxing out his raw magic stat is the safest way to overpower higher-tier monsters. Curious about upgrading his defenses, Juyeon asks the clerk for a price quote on high-grade armor. The clerk hit him with a 400 million won price tag, completely killing his shopping spree. Juyeon takes his accessories and leaves, refusing to spend a literal fortune on basic gear. Dressed in his brown traveling cloak, Juyeon arrives at the dimensional portal leading to Sky Island Kinal. He straps a bodycam onto his chest harness so he can record evidence and claim the government bounty. Checking forum reviews at the gate, players warn that flying monsters make the field impossible for melee tanks. Juyeon skims through the negative feedback, convinced people are just exaggerating normal difficulty. Confident in his stacked magic stats, my guy casually steps right into the portal light. A blinding flash takes over as the portal teleports him straight up into Sky Island Kinal. Juyeon blinks against the bright sun, adjusting his eyes to the open field. He looks around at the floating green plains and finds the scenery pretty peaceful. That peaceful vibe vanishes when he looks up and sees a giant flying griffin carrying off a screaming hunter. The captured hunter cries out in terror as the monster loses its grip. The guy plummets straight past the island edge into the endless sky abyss below. Juyeon stands frozen in utter shock as the brutal reality of the forum warnings hits him. When the whole flock turns toward him, Juyeon charges dual fireballs and decides on an immediate full retreat. Before he can run, he spots two heavily equipped hunters taking a defensive stance ahead. The tank plants his blue tower shield into the dirt, creating a barrier to lock down incoming attacks. Behind the shield, S-rank illusionist Kim Hae-jae channels magic into her golden crescent staff. Sparks swirl around her as she finishes the incantation for high-tier fire magic. She unleashes Fire Storm, raising a massive pillar of flame that incinerates the entire griffin flock in seconds. Juyeon watches in total disbelief as charred feathers rain down all around the field. Wiping off his sweat, Juyeon gives credit where it's due for that insane fire damage. Kim Hae-jae stretches casually while her tank partner reminds her not to get reckless like last time. As Juyeon starts walking away to copy that firestorm spell, bouncy green slimes slide up to his boots. Meanwhile, Kim Hae-jae reflects on her past injuries, wishing she had managed to recruit a skilled healer. She glances over and gasps in surprise as she recognizes a familiar face nearby. Juyeon panics and flails comedically as two overly affectionate slimes latch onto his leg. Footsteps approach while he continues kicking wildly at the harmless mobs. Kim Hae-jae and her tank partner walk right up with bright smiles, greeting a thoroughly embarrassed Juyeon. Juyeon can only offer a strained, sweating smile as his low-profile disguise completely falls apart. Even the local slimes seem delighted by the awkward reunion. Juyeon cries tears of relief as Hae-jae's tank partner holds off a green slime. Looking down, our boy instantly recognizes Kim Hae-jae, the S-rank illusionist from earlier. The tanker glances back, doubting Hae-jae would actually go out of her way to invite a random healer. Turns out she absolutely would, smiling brightly as she locks her sights on him. Hae-jae greets Juyeon enthusiastically, treating their reunion like a total twist of fate. She grabs his arm, insisting they party up, while Juyeon tries to explain he planned to hunt solo. Feeling awkward, Juyeon politely asks her to let go of his arm. Realizing the opportunity, our boy figures he should copy Light of Healing to round out his build. He tells the group he needs to step away for a quick second to set things up. The party looks around the empty field, completely confused about where he thinks he's going. Juyeon sweats, knowing he can't just admit he needs privacy to pull up UserTube and copy skills. Suddenly, a giant rock drops straight out of the sky. A flying monster up above releases a massive boulder right onto their location. Haijai's tank partner steps up, raising his blue tower shield to absorb the entire impact. Juyeon watches closely, realizing the airborne monsters are actually using tactics to target them. A stampede of beasts charges in right after the bombardment. Haijai winks confidently and steps forward with her golden crescent staff. She unleashes a massive fire wall, incinerating the charging monsters in seconds. Fire magic wipes out the remaining wave in a series of explosions. Haijai wipes her brow, proudly striking a pose after completely clearing the area. Juyeon is impressed by her high-rank arsenal, wondering how many skills an X-ranker must hold. Haijai laughs off his amazement like it's nothing special. She casually admits that high rankers simply buy most of their best skills off the market. The group pauses by a bubbling body of water as another threat approaches. A giant aquatic crocodile monster bursts out of the water with open jaws. As the team takes defensive stances, Juyeon steps up to provide magic support. Our boy points his finger and triggers Fireball. Haijai and her tank partner stare in utter disbelief at the overwhelming heat. Juyeon sweats in shock as his fireball explodes into a massive column of fire. Haijai immediately turns on him, demanding to know if his magic stat is secretly higher than hers. Haijai explaining healer priority and defense skills. She presses him hard, insisting he tell her how much mana he actually has. The tanker gives Juyeon a deadly serious stare, sensing something isn't adding up. Nearby hunters notice the intense vibe surrounding their party and keep their distance. Across the field, a hunter warns his teammate to stay sharp for flying monsters. His partner swings his sword at local mobs, complaining about farming weak targets. The group stands over defeated slimes, oblivious to what their kills are setting off. They keep taking turns clearing mobs, completely unaware the island's boss trigger has been met. System alerts clear, revealing the intimidating divine face of Hanel. A hunter spots something strange emerging high up in the sky. Hanel spreads massive feathered wings, descending gracefully against the sun. Hunters on the ground stare up in awe, wondering if an actual angel just appeared. The system details Hanel's S-rank skill, Sword of the Heavens, which scales damage with every death on the island. Juyeon looks up as golden energy and glowing particles flood the sky. Our boy's eyes widen in pure horror as he processes the scale of the spell. Beams of light rain down from above as the attack begins. Golden swords bombard the plains, leaving local hunters screaming on the ground. Haijai rushes over to check on her tank partner after he blocks the barrage. The tanker gasps out that blocking the falling swords crippled his attack, defense, and health stats. Juyeon immediately steps in, casting light of healing to purge the debuff. Warm aura radiates from Juyeon's hand as his recovery magic takes effect. Juyeon turns his eyes back toward the sky, sternly analyzing the boss's capabilities. Hanel hovers overhead, bathed in brilliant golden light as it prepares its next attack. Checking Hanel's level 59 stats, Juyeon smirks and casually asks if they should just run for it. Reports break online about Hanel spawning on Sky Island and wiping out over 1,000 players with its opening skill. Footage from live streams shows the angelic boss hovering above the fields right before the chaos started. With 3 glowing eyes and massive wings, Hanel looked more like an endgame deity than a standard field encounter. Its signature attack rained golden swords across the entire region, catching everyone off guard. Hunters who survived the initial hit found themselves pinned down, unable to even lift their weapons under the heavy stat debuff. To make matters worse, ordinary field monsters near the boss began mutating and gaining massive power boosts. Hunters could only watch in disbelief as weak mobs suddenly turned into high-level threats. Watching the clips from his apartment, Juyeon realizes running away from that boss fight was definitely the right call. He knows dumping all his stat points into magic made his spells strong, but his physical body is way too squishy if he gets caught in a debuff area. Right as he starts brainstorming ways to fix his base stats, his phone rings with an incoming call from Kim Haijai. He answers, and the S-rank illusionist greets him cheerfully like they are old friends. She asks if he has been back to Sky Island since their last run, but Ju-yeon tells her he stayed far away. Haijai explains that Sky Island monsters are descending into Seoul, so high-ranking guilds are forming a massive raid team to take down Haenel. Ju-yeon's eyes widen when she asks if he wants to join the elite subjugation team. A few days later at the Seoul Grand Park Swamp Field, crowd members stare in awe at all the A-rank and B-rank veterans gathering. Sensing the overwhelming energy in the air, onlookers gossip about how incredible a hunter has to be just to qualify for this team. Ju-yeon adjusts his casual sweatshirt, glad he ditched his mage cloak disguise so no one connects him to the monster fireball from earlier. A familiar voice calls out his name from across the staging area. Our boy turns around and spots Haijai waving him over alongside her heavy tank partner. When Ju-yeon worries his F-rank status might get him kicked out, Haijai reassures him that healers with debuff removal skip the rank requirements. She checks her watch, wondering when the guild leader running the operation is going to show up. Heavy metallic footsteps echo through the clearing, catching the entire crowd's attention. Lee Haesung, the SS-class guild leader of Daehin, strides into the park draped in full armor and a crimson cape. Without wasting time on pleasantries, the SS-class warrior announces that every applicant must pass an immediate combat evaluation. Haijai smirks and readies her golden staff, eager to clear out swamp mobs and prove her worth. Ju-yeon thinks the guild leader's attitude is pretty arrogant, but notices no one dares to voice a complaint. Lee Haesung steps forward as a radiant magic crest flares behind him, signaling the start of the trial. Watching the insane aura burst, Ju-yeon covers his mouth and secretly admits the guild leader looks pretty cool. A horde of reptilian swamp monsters charges out of the muddy water straight toward the hunters. Ju-yeon considers stepping up to fight, but pauses to reevaluate his options. He hangs back among the masked raiders in the rear guard, keeping a low profile while the front line engages. Checking his elemental ring system window, he reminds himself that sticking to ranged magic is mathematically his best build. A brief flashback of his past life as a sword-wielding hero flashes in his mind, giving him a strange surge of nostalgia. He shakes the thought off and uses a basic healing spell on an injured hunter nearby to maintain his disguise. He knows diving into melee combat without solid physical attributes is pure suicide. Up ahead, Lee Haesung swings his massive blade, cleaving through multiple swamp beasts with waves of dark energy. Ju-yeon stares in total shock as he senses the guild leader's stats suddenly skyrocket mid-combat. Using Skill Master, our boy breaks down the underlying mana structure behind the warrior's slashes. A glowing blue system window pops up right in front of Ju-yeon, revealing the exact details of the technique. It is an SS-grade trait called Bloodstained Battle, which permanently absorbs a fraction of a target's physical stats whenever they bleed. As Lee Haesung plants his sword into a fallen monster, Ju-yeon smirks, realizing he just found the perfect skill to copy and fix his low physical stats. Right in the middle of the Seoul Grand Park marshland, the giant poison lizard Kingfield boss roars to life. Panicked hunters scatter everywhere, shouting that a field boss has spawned. Ju-yeon zeroes in on the monster, ready to execute his timing perfectly. He checks the limit break skill window, confirming the stat boosts he is about to trigger. Our boy drops straight from the sky, driving his sword straight into the Lizard King. He finishes the boss off in a single strike before it can even react. Kim Haijai and her tank partner catch up with Ju-yeon as the fight settles down. The party debriefs after the boss falls, looking back at how fast the fight ended. Kim Haijai clarifies that Ju-yeon earned his raid rewards because his constant debuff dispels counted as active contribution. Haijai's tank partner raises his sword high, signaling the raid team to regroup. Haijai announces they will hold a final strategy briefing before handing out the raid loot. Juyeon inspects his newly acquired Catalyst skill window, realizing its poison-amplifying trait will come in handy. Haijai's tank partner glances over, completely bewildered by Juyeon's weird behavior. Juyeon flashes a ridiculously smug face, totally satisfied with how much loot he walked away with. Back home in his bathrobe, Juyeon collapses onto his bed, completely drained from the raid. He scrolls through endless E-rank, daily quest notifications popping up on his screen. Sitting up with a fresh boost of motivation, Juyeon gets ready to spend his accumulated point stash. He hits yes on the menu to upgrade his skill copy X trait. Juyeon visualizes his physical power surging, planning how to pair his active buffs for maximum damage output. A dark smirk creeps onto his face as he realizes how overpowered his combined skill setup is going to be. In chibi form, Juyeon sits huddled in thought, wishing he had even more skill slots to play with. He opens his skill copy interface to review his active slots and set up resistance to change. In the Gapyeong forest, a massive werewolf monster towers right over Juyeon. Juyeon just smirks under his hood while charging a massive fireball right in his hand. A viral video player airs local combat footage of the mysterious hunter known online as Psychopath. The colossal Gapyeong field boss mountain snake slithers through the woods, locking its eyes on Juyeon. Juyeon leaps nimbly through the trees, staying one step ahead of the giant serpent. He charges up another massive fireball to blast the snake directly. Juyeon turns around in midair, adjusting his movement on the fly. With glowing red eyes shining under his hood, our boy rushes forward to maintain pressure. The mountain snake roars in pain as continuous explosive impacts wear down its health. Repeated fire explosions erupt all over the giant field boss. Juyeon stands calmly in his hooded cloak, casually pointing at the burning boss. A final explosion tears through the mountain snake, finishing the fight for good. Nearby hunters watch in sheer disbelief as Juyeon solos a giant field boss with sheer chip damage. A sleek luxury car pulls up to a stop along the city roadside. Lee Suyeon steps out of the vehicle, holding field inspection reports for her boss. Inside the car, world number 1 ranker Mohammed Al reviews the viral footage on his smartphone. The phone screen zooms in on Psychopath's hand, clearly displaying the SS-grade elemental ring. Mohammed Al grins, instantly recognizing the ring as the exact one Juyeon gave him in the fantasy world. Lee Suyeon watches her boss, asking if he is really that certain the mystery hunter is Yu Juyeon. Daehin Guild leader Lee Haesung stands tall in full armor, finalizing preparations for the upcoming Sky Island raid. Kim Haijai and her tank partner discuss their strategy for the massive raid ahead. Haijai looks forward with determination, ready for the dangerous operation. Back in his apartment, Juyeon organizes his equipment for the raid. He checks his gear one last time, making sure everything is in place. Wearing his brown hooded traveling cloak and bodycam harness, Juyeon sets out toward the Sky Island raid portal. Juyeon is furious that strangers are making money from his raid footage, while the guy who did all the work gets nothing. They never showed his face, but turning his fight into content without permission still feels like robbery. Then our boy realizes he can stop complaining, cut out the middlemen, and upload the footage himself. His imagination jumps from a verified channel to a gold play button, but the current daily quest drags him back to reality. Tonight's B-rank mission wants 10 essences, 20 monster kills, and a full hour inside the special field. Juyeon wants everything finished before his skills reset at midnight, and a blue glow in the grass finally gives him a lead. The glow turns out to be an essence, the first of 10 hidden across the field. He picks it up and confirms these things have to be collected one by one. The bad news is that none of them drop from monsters, so he has to search every corner of the map himself. That grind would be a deal-breaker for any weaker reward, but a B-rank quest is too valuable to abandon. Before he can keep searching, a giant bird dives straight at him from the dark. The ambush catches him cold, yet his body starts dodging before his brain can panic. He slips aside just in time, leaving the bird to carve through a tree instead. Juyeon lands cleanly and realizes that movement was not a lucky stumble. Even he cannot explain how he dodged something that fast. Apparently his body has started acting on its own, but my guy shelves that mystery and gets back to grinding. From there, Fireball handles the monster quota with much less drama. The field is unusually busy tonight, with several groups hunting long past normal hours. One of those groups has already found Kynal in the northwest and is preparing an early raid. Their real goal is to steal the boss and make Lee Haesung return empty-handed. At their leader's order, the strike team hides behind matching masks before the ambush. And if an outsider gets too close, their solution is simple: kill them. Meanwhile, Juyeon finishes his 20th kill and clears the combat requirement. The essences are easier to spot than expected, and another glowing orb puts the finish line within reach. He already survived the required hour, so with 9 essences collected, only one objective remains. A burst of noise overhead pulls his attention away from the search. Kynal is already trading attacks with the masked raiders, one night earlier than the official guild schedule. Since Lee Haesung's guild was scheduled for dawn, Juyeon knows this raid should not be happening yet. The masked team focuses its fire on Kynal's wings and tries to force the boss out of the sky. Juyeon worries the thieves will take Kynal before he can warn Lee Haesung. Then one tiny detail in the quest wording stops him. It only says the field has to be conquered. Neither the main quest nor the subquest says Juyeon has to land the killing blow himself. So our boy chooses the premium strategy: let the criminals clear his objective for free. With Juyeon staying out of it, the raiders keep hammering away at Kynal. Their archers pour everything into the wings and finally send Kynal crashing down. The moment the boss falls below half health and loses flight, the raiders rush in for the kill. Juyeon, who knows this boss better than they do, can only sit back and pity them. Grounding Kynal triggers Phase 3, corrupting one wing and adding Condemn to every attack. A black wing erupts, the third phase begins, and the easy ambush disappears with it. Kynal tears through the formation so hard that the whole raid starts flying apart. One blast even blows the missing 10th essence straight to Juyeon's feet. He scoops it up with a grin, because apparently the most dangerous fight here is also free delivery. Kynal is not finished, and its next glare lands on the remaining raiders. Another golden strike detonates through the battlefield before anyone can recover. The survivors get launched across the field and come crashing down right beside Juyeon. Still holding his prize, Juyeon watches the battered raiders stumble toward him and wonders why they picked his direction. The dazed survivors regroup, check for anyone else who got blown away, and prepare to rejoin the fight. That search turns up their unconscious mage, along with the red and black mask he lost in the crash. When Juyeon asks who they are, the masked hunters assume their mage is dazed from the impact. Since a raid party cannot afford to lose its mage, they rush over and collect the wrong brown-robed guy. Before Juyeon can explain, they hand him a spare mask and start treating him like one of their own. The raiders order their new mage to put it on and hurry back to the battle. Caught in the misunderstanding, my guy decides the disguise is safer than correcting them. He slips into the formation while the actual mage lies behind them, grateful that somebody else inherited his nightmare. While Juyeon gets dragged toward Kynal, the system confirms 10 essences, stores a random item, and applies the B-rank quest buff. The Sky Island raid against Kynal is absolute chaos in midair right off the bat. Blue energy slashes tear through the sky as everyone tries to land solid hits on the boss. Other hunters start looking around, completely confused about where all these insane distant fireballs are coming from. It turns out Juyeon has a B-rank quest buff active that supercharges all his stats and mana. He sneaks in low-tier spells behind other hunters to keep his identity hidden under his mask. Juyeon knows if he stops casting they'll suspect him, but if he goes all out, he'll stick out like a sore thumb. Meanwhile, Divine Boss Kynal roars while taking a non-stop beating from magic attacks. Juyeon glances over, Loki loving how sturdy this giant punching bag is for testing his damage. Our boy is literally having the time of his life, blending in and doing whatever he wants. That is until Kynal's corrupt aura flares up, triggering the boss's Phase 2 mechanics. Because the raid team failed to drop Kynal's health fast enough, the system summons buffed minion swarms across the island. Portal rings open overhead as giant sky griffin monsters swarm down onto the field. A massive stone rhino beast drops right next to a startled hunter on the ground. Up on a cliff, a group of hunters realizes something feels way off about the raid timing. They start questioning why a full-scale battle is happening when the official raid schedule was set for later. Before they can process it, a rogue masked group ambushes them out of nowhere. Monsters and blood spray everywhere as total mayhem erupts across the front line. Psychopath worries that if Daehan Guild leader Lee Haesung spots their ambush, things will get complicated. So his rogue PK assassins draw their blades and start slaughtering every outside witness in sight. Juyeon stands frozen in disgust as blood splashes around him and screams echo through the area. Terrified players scream for help while the rogue guild tries to wipe out everyone. That's when Daehan Guild leader Lee Haesung arrives with Kim Hae-jae and her tank partner to put a stop to the massacre. Lee Haesung glares at the invaders with pure rage. He steps forward, calling out these lowlifes for barging into a public raid and acting like savages. Lee Haesung raises his massive broadsword as his guild knights fall into formation behind him. He makes it clear that stealing bosses and murdering innocent players ends right now. With a lethal smirk, he tells the ambushers they have zero right to complain about what happens next. He charges headfirst into the cluster of masked PK killers, swinging his sword with fatal intent. Juyeon dodges out of the way as fleeing PK members shout to target the raid's healers first. Random hunters panic in the crossfire, having no idea where to take cover. To make matters worse, Kynal swoops back down to rain fire on the entire battlefield. Juyeon assesses the situation from the trees, realizing their firepower is way too divided between the boss and the invaders. Lee Haesung's eyes glow bright red as he prepares his SS-grade trait, searching for a way to break the deadlock. He grips his broadsword tight, channeling immense energy for an all-out strike. Juyeon watches him closely, realizing that exact skill is the key to turning this whole raid around. Over on the defense line, Kim Hae-jae fires a fire spear while her tank partner holds off swarming minion beasts with his tower shield. A sneaky PK assassin sneaks up behind Kim Hae-jae, dropping down for a lethal strike. Kim Hae-jae turns around in shock just as her attacker gets completely vaporized by magic. She stands there stunned, trying to figure out what just happened. Her tank partner rushes over to check on her, and she points straight toward the hooded mage. She realizes Juyeon actually attacked someone on his own side just to save her life. Her partner stares in complete disbelief as the realization hits them. Juyeon nimbly dodges an axe swing from a minion monster, keeping his distance. He deflects incoming ice spikes, watching his skill copy cooldown timer tick down to the last few seconds. He holds on for just a moment longer while avoiding incoming attacks. The timer hits 0, and our boy pulls out his smartphone with a confident grin. He targets Lee Haesung mid-fight and activates skill copy to snatch the SS-grade skill Blood Frenzy. Juyeon points his finger forward as intense blue aura swirls around his hand. He unleashes a massive blue fireball that rips right through the swarming minion waves. With Blood Frenzy active, Juyeon stands tall while red light glows behind his mask. Lee Haesung clicks his tongue in total shock as the minion waves get wiped out in seconds. Juyeon soars into the air, raining blue fire waves over Lee Haesung and Kynal alike. System windows stack up continuously, granting him a 2% skill effect boost for every 20 kills. Because Blood Frenzy stacks endlessly off minion kills, Juyon's combat stats shoot through the roof. He waves a cheerful farewell to the terrified PK ambushers before blowing them away. The massive explosion fades into pitch black as the final strike clears the field. Light particles gently settle over the quieted battleground. The night sky clears up over Sky Island as the chaos dies down. A giant crater is all that remains where the rogue ambushers used to stand. Surviving hunters stare in awe at the sheer destruction left behind. Boss Kynal dissolves into glowing experience particles, officially securing the raid victory. Lee Haesung sheathes his broadsword, looking over the cleared landscape. Kim Haijai and her partner look around, trying to find the mysterious hooded hero who saved them. Juyeon stands high on a mountain peak, overlooking the island as his hood sways in the wind. He checks his smartphone screen, looking at the massive stack of raid clear rewards. Our boy pulls back his hood and smiles, extremely satisfied with how much loot he walked away with. He heads quietly down the mountain path before anyone can track him down. And peace finally returns to Sky Island as dawn breaks over the horizon. Juyeon charges up his blue fireball as Kynal realizes something is terribly wrong. Juyeon swoops in disguised and delivers the decisive finishing strike. He unleashes a column of blue fire straight onto the boss. He shouts fireball as a massive torrent of blue flames engulfs the entire arena. Kynal's spectral face dissolves inside the magic explosion. The raid members brace against the blast wave in total confusion. Kynal collapses to his knees before crumbling into dust. Lee Haesung stares in shock as the boss system clear prompt pops up. Before anyone can move, our boy cuts right in front of the raid party to reach the loot. Psychopath grimaces in pure anger as he gets cut off from the prize. Lee Haesung confronts disguised Juyeon across the shattered floor. A system window alerts Juyeon that he has 10 seconds before teleporting to the tutorial space. Our boy blinks under his hood, realizing he has a built-in escape timer. Lee Haesung recognizes Juyeon's movement style and wonders why this high-damage player feels so familiar. Juyeon leaps straight for the floating boss drop. Lee Haesung yells in frustration as the loot gets snatched. Psychopath glares in fury at the masked thief stealing their kill. Juyeon turns his back with the prize firmly in hand. He holds up Kynal's winged ruby necklace with a smug grin. He waves goodbye as teleportation light wraps around his feet. Lee Haesung swings his broadsword only to cut thin air, realizing he just got completely outplayed. The raid members stand around admitting they all got played by a single masked guy. Juyeon lands in a starry cosmic realm wondering if the system just scammed him. A flood of system windows hits him with quest clear notifications, 110,000 SB, and Kynal's boss soul. A glowing fairy named Ego descends to greet him. Ego introduces herself as his personal tutorial assistant. She explains that she was summoned to guide him through his special tutorial. Juyeon realizes assistant guides must be a hidden feature exclusive to X-rank unique traits. Ego points her finger to open up his trait upgrade menu. She explains that upgrading his detailed traits is essentially his second-class advancement. Our boy stands there sweating over the sudden system overhaul. System windows display his full skill trees for skill mastery and skill copy. Ego smiles beside him as she waits for his choice. Juyeon considers boosting unearned income to maximize his long-term SB gains. He remembers how close the raid fight was and realizes he needs immediate combat flexibility. He decides increasing his daily skill copy charges is the smartest move right now. Ego asks if he wants to claim the rest of his reward items. The fire explosion sword materializes in a blaze of flames from his reward box. Juyeon opens the Skill Master C-Rank box to collect his next prize. A bonus quest screen pops up offering 10,000 SB and intelligence stat potions. He unlocks his fourth subtrait, Blue is the Best, which grants random bonus options to copied skills. With the minor rewards out of the way, it is time for the main prize. Kynal's ruby winged necklace hovers before him. The SS-grade accessory window reveals massive boosts to magic, mana, and skill power. Juyeon fastens the cursed necklace around his neck. His character status window updates with huge stat increases across the board. Our goat inspects his overall power growth with a satisfied smirk. Juyeon asks Ego if he can head back to Earth now that the rewards are locked in. A blue dimensional portal materializes inside the cosmic field. Ego waves goodbye and wishes him luck back on Earth. Juyeon turns toward the gateway with determined eyes. He adjusts his cloak and silver ring before taking a step. He steps into the glowing portal beam. Ego watches him disappear as the transition light fades. Juyeon arrives back on Earth atop a skyscraper overlooking the city skyline. He takes off his red and black disguise mask. He checks the silver elemental ring on his hand. He pulls out his smartphone to check the time and breaking news. Lee Haesung stands before news cameras, publicly accusing Psychopath of stealing the Sky Island raid boss. Reporters shout questions about the stolen rewards as Lee Haesung confirms everyone's stats increased anyway. When pressed on whether any boss loot actually dropped, he refuses to elaborate and turns away. He cold shoulders the press entirely, abruptly ending the briefing. Back at her apartment, Kim Hae-jae dials Juyeon while her tank partner works out, worried he might get killed if Daehan Guild catches him. Her call drops straight to voicemail, raising her partner's doubts. She rapidly texts him instead, obsessing over his fireball skill signature. The call finally connects, making her light up with excitement. She gets right to the point and asks Juyeon directly if he was the wizard at Sky Island. Juyeon immediately breaks into a nervous sweat and lies that he did not even go to the raid. Kim Hae-jae calls his bluff, pointing out that his magic gear matches the suspect's kit perfectly. Panicking, Juyeon apologizes for missing the raid and insists she has the wrong guy. He blurts out that he is stepping into the shower and hangs up right in her face. Bare-chested in his apartment, Juyeon sighs in relief, thinking he successfully dodged a bullet. Suddenly, his consciousness drifts as system messages warn that extra-dimensional invaders are coming to destroy Earth. The fairy guide Ego materializes before Juyeon in cosmic space, assuring him he holds unique power. Ego explains that Skill Master is a divine reality-altering authority granted directly to him. Juyeon ponders if he has secretly inherited divine origin, though his mundane past makes it hard to believe. Ego tells him not to overthink his origins, focusing instead on his past heroic feats. Abstract Flame Aura Particle Panel. She presents him with a single final choice regarding his ultimate path. Juyeon asks her what choice she is talking about. Ego reminds him that true hero power can remain dormant or blossom, depending on what he decides. She reaches out her hand, asking if he will just enjoy his power or bear the heavy burden of saving the world. She gestures gently, outlining the weight of his potential ascension. Ego reassures him that world salvation is not mandatory, just an optional path. Snapping back to reality, Juyeon relaxes in his hot bath, completely rejecting grand heroic destinies. Meanwhile, Kim Hae-jae stares triumphantly at her tablet, confident she cracked Juyeon's secret identity. Looking over her mind map connecting Juyeon to Psychopath, she decides she must confront him face to face. Her tank partner asks why she is so obsessed with a random low ranker. She explains that to survive high-rank fields, her team needs an exceptional monster like Psychopath. Her partner just sighs, knowing there is no stopping her. Kim Hae-jae claps her hands excitedly, beginning to deduce Juyeon's daily habits. Calculating his level and financial needs, she predicts his exact hunting location. Deep in a foggy forest, her armored tank partner waits in position, doubting her crazy prediction. Sure enough, our boy shows up in his hooded cloak and stammers in shock as Kim Haijai ambushes him. She leans in close, ordering him to stop playing innocent and come clean. Juyeon puts his hands up defensively, playing dumb as an ordinary low-tier healer. The tank partner steps in, holding up 5 fingers and cutting straight to an outrageous hiring offer. He throws a heavy armored arm around Juyeon, offering 500 gold an hour to force his cooperation. He drags Juyeon along, reminding Kim Haijai that this party work helps clear his own debt. Seeing the absurd payout, Juyeon immediately folds and agrees to join as Kim Haijai claps happily. Juyeon suddenly makes an excuse about an upset stomach and dashes into the bushes. The tank partner looks on with pity, writing Juyeon off as someone suffering from severe irritable bowel syndrome. Kim Haijai leans right into Juyeon's face, asking if he is really the infamous ranker everyone is talking about. Juyeon plays dumb and stammers that he can't hear her properly, trying to dodge her direct questioning. Haijai promises that if he admits his true identity, she will keep his secret and repay him for saving her party. Juyeon keeps up his naive facade while walking through the spider-hole field, claiming that rogue mages are the real problem. As they venture deeper into the web-covered cave, Juyeon covers his stats by claiming his high mana comes purely from gear bonuses. Her tank partner asks if he gets tired of playing around, but Juyeon stays calm as monsters start lurking above them. Since he is being paid 500 gold an hour, Juyeon steps up to clear the frontline himself. Haijai is taken aback when Juyeon draws a blade, completely surprised that he can fight as a magic swordsman. Juyeon channels mana into his blade, deciding it is time to run a quick skill test on these spider hordes. Instead of his usual fiery spells, icy magic energy begins swirling around Juyeon's weapon. He checks his system interface to confirm the specs for his D-rank poison skill before firing. Juyeon launches a poison-infused ice spear straight into the queen spider field boss. The poison magic binds instantly, spreading toxic green energy across the boss's body. His eyes glow sharp green as he prepares to trigger his secondary skill combo. Juyeon calls out Catalyst to detonate the poison stacks he just applied. The poison converts into critical poison, instantly disintegrating the queen spider as the party watches in complete shock. Haijai stares in awe, confused that Juyeon is using ice and poison instead of his signature fire magic. Juyeon strokes his chin and reflects on how concealing Fireball keeps his identity safe while testing elemental efficiency. After finishing the raid, the group moves to Yeonam Porkhouse to unwind. Haijai raises a cold mug of beer, laughing loudly as she gets ready to celebrate. The whole party clinks their glasses together in a loud cheers over the table. Juyeon sits across from Haijai and her tank partner, enjoying a cold drink after a long day. He looks back on the system notifications that popped up right after the boss fell. Juyeon smirks to himself, proud that his skill combination wiped out the dungeon boss in a single hit. Juyeon gets startled when Haijai suddenly gasps while checking her phone rewards screen. The party stands in total silence over the boss corpse after realizing no open soul drop appeared on the ground. Haijai admits that, because she held the primary damage contribution, the system awarded the boss soul directly to her. To make up for taking the soul drop, Haijai promises to treat Juyeon to all the Korean barbecue and drinks he wants. Our boy leans back at the dining table, enjoying his free meal while Haijai prepares her next move. Haijai leans forward aggressively, pointing her finger as she tells Juyeon she has a career offer he cannot refuse. The table fills with grilled pork belly and side dishes as Haijai gets serious about hunter business. She explains that high-level boss hunts are impossible to sustain alone without an organized team backing you up. Juyeon keeps eating pork while listening to her break down the harsh realities of higher fields. Haijai pours soju into a shot glass while explaining how a management party handles scheduling, loot taxes, and safety. Her tank partner eats quietly in the background, while Haijai presses Juyeon on the dangers of solo hunting. Haijai slides a printed management contract directly across the table to Juyeon. Chibai Haijai flashes a blinding white smile as Chibai Juyeon looks surprised at the generous terms. Juyeon listens closely as Haijai acknowledges his true strength and promises to protect his secrets. She emphasizes her ambition to leave a legacy, telling him that true rankers build their names together at the top. Haijai declares with total passion that she would rather die than stay a side character in this world. She hands over a secondary clause document detailing extra perks specifically for him. The paper outlines a free luxury office-style apartment exclusively for contract users. Juyeon grins bashfully as he reads the hilarious bonus note claiming the world's most beautiful woman lives next door. The entire table goes dead silent in awkward deadpan over Haijai's self-praising joke. Juyeon smiles with full satisfaction, realizing these contract terms are way too good to pass up. Haijai cheers joyfully alongside her partner as Juyeon officially agrees to sign the deal. Haijai hands Juyeon an unlimited black credit card, promising to manage his income while funding all his needs. Juyeon stares at the sleek black card in total disbelief, completely stunned by her financial backing. That night, Juyeon relaxes on a plush sofa inside his new high-rise luxury office-style, holding his new card. He checks his smartphone UI to review the finalized party management contract. The system window confirms that his official ranker contract and party registration are fully processed. Juyeon leans back with a quiet smile of relief, enjoying the peace of having a secure home base. He stands up to walk around his spacious living area, taking in the upgraded lifestyle. Juyeon touches his SS-grade elemental ring as he looks out over the glowing city skyline. The panoramic view of the night city reinforces his drive to reclaim his place at the absolute top. He heads over to his equipment rack to get gear ready for his next high-tier raid. Juyeon straps his bodycam harness securely across his chest. He tightens the clips on his chest strap to make sure all his gear is locked in place. Fully geared in his brown hunting cloak, Juyeon completes a quick pre-battle check. He pulls his hood up over his hair, ready to head out into the field. Juyeon rides the elevator down, looking calm and determined for the challenge ahead. He steps smoothly through the sleek apartment lobby on his way out. Juyeon arrives at the glowing dungeon portal zone, stepping forward to enter his next high-level raid. Haijai's tank partner is already stressing out about stepping into a C-rank field with only 3 people. Kim Haijai just laughs it off, totally hyped to check out MT, Unak. Juyeon flashes a huge grin and tells them not to worry, even though his actual level is only 15. Her tank partner reminds him that recommended levels are just system guidelines and actual combat can get ugly. Our boy confidently announces he has a full plan to sweep up all the experience points for the party. They arrive at MT, Unak, a C-rank field famous for overrun plant monsters and mutated trees. The tank partner raises his shield to block incoming plant beasts while Juyeon steps up to take charge. Juyeon charges up a blazing fireball right at the front lines. He unleashes a wall of fire, incinerating the plant monsters instantly. The system confirms a unique trait enhancement, boosting his fireball skill effect by another 10%. Juyeon smugly checks his setup, loving how smoothly his power combos are working. He uses his chest bodycam to test recording Blood Combat X and track his rising stats in real time. He triggers another high-tier explosion skill to wipe out the remaining wave in style. Kim Haijai stands there completely speechless, watching him blow through monsters like paper. Juyeon laughs maniacally while blasting fire left and right, fully leaning into his unhinged combat persona. A giant pillar of fire erupts across the field as he finishes off the mob. Nearby, a mysterious suited agent in sunglasses listens through his earpiece, tracking the wild magic output. The agent confirms Ju-yeon's target location, matching his appearance and skill profile to the reports. Over on the ridge, an armed assassin smirkly decides to take Ju-yeon down. Unaware of the hidden sniper, Ju-yeon keeps blasting fire, turning the field monsters into pile of loot. He crouches down to collect magic crystals, shooting all the way up to level 17. As he reaches into the dirt for item drops, he accidentally pulls out a skeletal human hand. Ju-yeon inspects the bone, realizing this isn't monster loot at all. Kim Hae-jae and her partner rush over after hearing him yell out in surprise. Ju-yeon panics for a second, wondering if his wide-range fire accidentally killed a stray hunter. Hae-jae calms him down, explaining that normal fire wouldn't strip a body into a clean skeleton like this. A close-up on the skull shows it was left stripped clean of all gear and weapons. Hae-jae points out the hunter was clearly PK'd by other players and looted, deciding to call the cleanup squad. Ju-yeon is surprised by how unfazed she is by a murdered hunter. She explains field murders happen constantly and are almost impossible to track down. In a quick flashback, Hae-jae remembers the time her own party turned on her in the middle of a raid. Ju-yeon stares in shock as she casually admits she had to kill her treacherous teammates to survive. She adds that monsters are easy to deal with, but you can never trust humans in an open field. She quickly brightens up and jokes about her own charm to lighten the heavy mood. Ju-yeon just looks at her awkwardly, completely caught off guard by her sudden personality shift. She remembers back to that brutal fight, standing over her former party members after taking them down. Hae-jae claps her hands together and tells Ju-yeon to always stay alert in high-tier zones. She warns him to keep his guard up because the field is filled with dangerous PK hunters. She offers that he can always hide behind her tank partner if things ever turn sour. Ju-yeon keeps quiet, inwardly smirking since his average physical stats are already over 35. Suddenly, a strange metallic device rolls right up to Ju-yeon's boot. Ju-yeon glances down in confusion as the sphere starts humming. The system immediately flashes an emergency alert, identifying the device as a B-rank pheromone bomb. The bomb detonates, covering the entire party in a dense cloud of pink gas. The ground shakes violently as surrounding field monsters catch the scent and go wild. Ju-yeon turns around in alarm as the enraged mob rushes their position. Our boy steps out into the open, realizing this ambush was engineered to wipe them out. Hae-jae yells for him to fall back as he walks straight into the line of fire. High up in the trees, a hidden crossbow sniper locks his sight directly onto Ju-yeon's head. The assassin squeezes the trigger, sending a lethal bolt flying through the forest. Ju-yeon senses the incoming threat just in time to react. He twists his body sideways, dodging the high-speed projectile by a hair. The heavy bolt slams into a tree trunk right behind him, shattering the bark. The hidden sniper watches in disbelief as his perfect ambush shot gets effortlessly avoided. Ju-yeon glares toward the tree line with glowing eyes, ready to turn the hunter into the prey. Kim Hae-jae turns around in a panic as a massive ent monster looms directly over them. She fires off fire spear, blasting straight through the wooden monster. The monster breaks apart in flames, but the fight is far from over. An entire swarm of red-eyed wood ents emerges from the forest. Hae-jae realizes they are heavily outnumbered and cannot hold out while trying to protect Ju-yeon. She orders her tanker partner to carry Ju-yeon and smash a path through the horde. The tanker uses his heavy tower shield to plow right through the incoming branches. Hae-jae swings her golden staff to burn down any monsters chasing them from behind. A metallic sphere lands right in front of the tanker's feet. Hae-jae fires a firestorm spell to keep the surrounding area clear. Psychopath steps out from the trees with a full team of armed hunters blocking their retreat. The tanker glares at the unexpected blocking party, demanding to know who they are. Haijai instantly launches a fire spear at the group to force her way through. Psychopath smoothly dodges sideways and cuts straight through her magic fire. Haijai recognizes that high-speed movement technique immediately. Psychopath smirks with his blade out, remembering her from the Kinal raid. He cold-bloodedly decides that everyone present has to be eliminated. One of his men lifts up another pheromone bomb. The device detonates, attracting enraged ant monsters straight toward Haijai and her party. Haijai and the tanker look around in horror as the enemies close in on all sides. The swarm of wooden monsters rushes in like a wave. The tanker gets knocked down under the heavy physical onslaught while shielding Juyeon. Haijai desperately swings her staff to ward off the incoming branches. Juyeon lies collapsed against the tanker's shoulder, suffering severe backlash. He clutches his head as skill overload makes his body feel like it is burning alive. Juyeon questions how things turned out like this and whether he is going to die here. He looks up bleeding from his forehead, his eyes completely changing with focus. Haijai and the tanker stand exhausted on the floor covered in crushed monster remains. Juyeon can barely process why this ambush is even happening. Our boy drags himself forward and leans on Haijai to stand. Haijai urgently asks if he is coming back to his senses and if he can walk. Juyeon tells both of them that he has one favor to ask. Psychopath walks up arrogantly, boasting that he will make their deaths quick. Haijai glares back defiant and tells him off. Psychopath mockingly points out how out of it Juyeon looks. Juyeon admits softly that the pain felt like hell. Psychopath laughs it off and promises to slice his flesh until only bones remain. Juyeon silently points one finger straight into the air. One of the ambushing hunters laughs, thinking they already prepped defenses for a fireball. Psychopath suddenly stops as golden SS-grade magic circles spread beneath their feet. He yells out in terror when he realizes this spell is definitely not a fireball. Golden light particles fill the entire sky overhead. Juyeon calmly announces meteor rain as the sky turns bright gold. A blinding wave of magic fire erupts across the field. Psychopath turns to run as the heat wave hits his squad. A dark red aura flares up amid the falling meteors. The entire forest floor turns into a massive inferno of glowing magic circles. Juyeon clutches his chest in total exhaustion right after teleporting everyone to safety. He drops straight onto his back, screaming in pure relief that they actually survived. Lying on the grass, he catches his breath, still shaken by how close that call was. He knows without teleportation, they would have been total goners back there. Later that night in his room, Juyeon sits up past midnight to configure his daily skill slots. Checking his phone UI, he realizes his teleport trait can move whole groups at once. Seeing how broken this mass teleportation is brings a huge smile to his face. He gets super hyped after realizing additional slot bonuses are available today. Back on the field, Kim Haijai and her partner stand guard near the escape portal. Haijai taps her phone, ready to handle the post-battle cleanup. She decides they should go loot all the dropped gear left behind by the attackers. Nearby hunters stare with open mouths at the sheer destruction left behind. A massive scorched crater sits where the meteor strike hit, leaving the crowd whispering about Muhammad Al. Juyeon hits level 20, unlocking 5 new subtraits in his system. Back at the penthouse, Haijai and her partner sit down with Juyeon to unpack what happened. Juyeon comes clean about his X-class skill master ability that lets him copy any spell. Haijai gasps in complete shock once she realizes the true scale of his power. She lines in, asking if he can even copy her own unique illusion spells. Her partner points out that copying tanking abilities without heavy armor is pretty pointless. Haijai's eyes sparkle with excitement as she presses him for all the details. Our boy puts his hand up and tells her the exact limits are staying a secret. Her partner changes the subject, asking if anyone knows who actually ambushed them. Juyeon suspects the attackers were the same crew from the Kinal raid. The tanker partner speaks up, claiming he has a strong hunch about their true identity. Haijai turns completely serious as she prepares to name the organization. She explains that a shady group has been aggressively hoarding high-tier boss items. She reveals the attackers belong to the Raider Guild, a group that previously tried recruiting her. The dropped loot from the ambush confirms it, since multiple boss-tier weapons were found on them. Juyeon looks pale as Haijai warns him that the Raider Guild is a global syndicate. Lying on his bed, my guy realizes his secret identity is slipping, and he needs to get stronger fast. He opens his system and spends 5,000 SB to level up his passive income sub-trait. He smiles, loving the idea of earning free SB while literally doing nothing. He then dumps 25,000 SB into Trait Grant, bringing it up to level 3. With his remaining points prepped, Juyeon opens up his sub-trait menu for the main upgrade. The system window breaks down skill storage, allowing him to permanently hold copied abilities. Juyeon gets a sudden flash of inspiration on which skill to lock in first. His ring glows as he selects resistance to change for permanent storage. He grins at his holographic UI, knowing stored skills give him unlimited uses. His active lineup is now locked in with Radiant Power, Resistance to Change, and Blood Combat. He reflects on Lee Haesung's physical combat style to balance out his new magic slate. Juyeon stretches out, planning to relax for a few days while rolling random skill upgrades. Except his peaceful vacation plans get ruined immediately. World number 1 ranker Mohammed Al and Secretary Lee show up unannounced inside his penthouse. Mohammed Al stands tall with a warm smile, greeting a completely stunned Juyeon. Secretary Lee stands by as Al mentions he personally suppressed the rumors linking Juyeon to the raid. Juyeon thanks him cautiously before asking why the top ranker actually visited. Haijai looks tense as Al demonstrates how much he already knows about their situation. Al reveals he is currently at war with the Raider Guild and intercepted crucial intelligence. He explains that the Raider Guild is secretly gathering at Ganjiam Resort Ski Field to search for hidden treasure. The party sits in quiet shock, processing the location of the enemy assembly. Haijai questions why Al is handing over this intel instead of taking down the guild himself. Al gestures smoothly, explaining his every move draws too much public attention for covert ops. Secretary Lee steps forward to remind Al that his scheduled time is up. Al rises from his seat, leaving the decision entirely in the party's hands. He adjusts his vest, wishing them luck before heading out the door. Juyeon sits back, carefully weighing the risk of raiding the ski resort. Locking in his resolve, our boy decides it is time to strike the Raider Guild at Ganjiam. Inside the special field known as the Tower of Destruction, dark energy swirls over rows of assembled raiders. A figure walks into the hall, dragging a red dragon's tail behind her. Energy crackles through the air, signaling the arrival of the new leader. Lin Zioling hauls a dead red dragon into the courtyard, right in front of her bowing guild members. A raider bows down politely to welcome her back. Lin Zioling smirks and casually lifts a finger. Before the guard can even finish his sentence, he gets sent flying backward through the air. She announces to the entire ranks that the old guild master is dead, meaning she is now in charge. Standing at the Tower of Destruction, she orders everyone to start addressing her as boss. Lin Zioling officially takes her throne as the brand new leader of the Raider Guild. She commands her subordinates to dismantle the dragon for materials and analyze monster patterns up to floor 20. After hearing that the former leader's faction is almost wiped out, she notes that his hidden treasure in Korea must still be untouched. She orders a team to retrieve that secret treasure exactly as planned. Lin Zioling declares that ordinary non-ability users are obsolete, and whoever conquers special fields and takes boss items will rule the world. Meanwhile in Korea, Ju-yeon gets excited because it is his first time ever stepping foot inside a ski resort. The trio arrives at the snow-covered Ganjiam Resort ski field, where blizzards keep regular visitors away. Our boy happily suggests clearing out the mission quickly so they can hang out and ski later. Ju-yeon and the tanker discuss striking the raider guild before the guild comes after them. The tanker panics when he realizes Kim Hae-jae sold the boss item under her own name, making their whole party an instant target. Hae-jae just laughs off the danger like it is nothing. Her partner facepalms, realizing he trusted her to handle the details quietly. She pats his shoulder and reassures him that 3 battle-hardened veterans can handle whatever comes their way. As they approach the ski lift, a guard in a yellow jacket suddenly yells at them to stop. Enforcers from the Enjoy Guild block the entrance and tell them to turn around if they want to stay alive. Hae-jae points her staff at them and asks if they actually have authority from the User Association. She calls them out directly for illegally claiming an open hunting ground for themselves. The guard smirks and draws his blade to intimidate her. That is when Ju-yeon's expression completely changes, casting a dark shadow over his face. He resolves that even if he is not a true hero yet, he is going to protect his allies himself. The guard makes a crude joke toward Hae-jae, totally unaware of who he is dealing with. The tanker tries to rush forward in anger, but Ju-yeon cuts right past him. Our boy raises his hand as a bright orange flame erupts over his palm. He charges straight into the guards, with fire flaring around his body. Recognizing 2 robed hunters, a tanker and dark fire magic, the guards freeze in absolute terror as they realize this is the infamous psychopath. Ju-yeon glares at them, asking if they really thought controlling a field was something weaklings could do. He raises a glowing finger behind a massive fire magic circle and asks if they want a lesson in real control. The guards start backing away in a cold sweat, stuttering that their guild was there first. Ju-yeon launches the fireball anyway, sending the screaming thugs scattering across the snow. He looks down with a cold stare and warns them that if they ever show their faces again, he will kill them. Hae-jae and her partner stand there in shock, barely recognizing this terrifying side of him. The tanker gazes at our boy with total respect, completely blown away by his aura. The second the danger passes, Ju-yeon instantly snaps back to his silly self, sheepishly rubbing his head. He actually starts wondering internally if extortion and intimidation might be his real calling. Deeper in the mountain, Enjoy Guild members are busy fighting off swarms of wolf monsters. One of the hunters suddenly stops as a heavy sound echoes behind him. A robed stranger drops down from above right into the middle of their group. The intruder calmly gestures, telling them he is just another hunter looking for a target. He smirks under his hood as the guards try to threaten him. Ignoring their warnings, he casually walks right past the Enjoy Guild members. He ominously whispers to himself that they will soon see who gets forced off the mountain. Violence erupts instantly as an Enjoy Guild hunter gets slashed and thrown backward. The silver-haired commander of the robed faction orders his troops to split into search and eliminate squads to wipe out the trash. A subordinate bows deeply to carry out the assault. The cold commander leads his group forward with absolute focus. Their true goal is waiting at the mountain peak, an ornate artifact known as the Imitation Bracelet. Hae-jae's tank partner looks serious as the group discusses making a preemptive strike against the raiders. He points out the first major problem: how are they supposed to tell the raiders apart from normal Enjoy Guild members in this blizzard? Ju-yeon smirks with a plan, reasoning that high-level raiders are hunting for treasure rather than monster experience points. Out in the snowfield, an enemy sentry glances around nervously. He pauses as the wind picks up, sensing something strange brewing in the air. Suddenly, a whole pack of dire wolves emerges right behind the unsuspecting scouts. The monster wave charges forward, completely swarming the panicked enemy scouts. From high up on a snowy ridge, Juyeon and his party watch the absolute chaos unfold below. Our boy gloats over the results, admitting it feels great to be on the giving end of a pheromone lure for once. He explains to the tank partner that anyone ignoring a massive mob stampede isn't here to farm EXP. Sure enough, the high-level enemy group stands its ground through the storm. Instead of fighting the horde, the enemies rush through the snow toward a specific destination. Juyeon signals his team to move out and tail them closely. Before giving chase, my goat casually tosses a tracking orb to keep tabs on their route. Kim Haijai watches him in awe, noticing how cold and calculating he gets the second combat starts. Following the map signal, the party moves fast through the freezing weather. Ahead of them, the enemy squad disappears right into a hidden cave along the cliffside. Juyeon's party takes stealth positions right outside the cave entrance. Juyeon pauses for a second, catching himself off guard by how calm he feels right before ambushing people who tried to kill him. Haijai checks in on him, but he quickly brushes it off. Our guy snaps back into focus and readies his mechanical repeating crossbow. Inside the cavern, 2 enemy sentries relax, thinking they successfully dodged the monster stampede. Out of nowhere, a silent bolt strikes one sentry right through the neck. As the first guard collapses foaming at the mouth, his partner panics and draws his blade. Juyeon's bow of weakening applies automatic stun and slow debuffs whenever target stats drop below 30. Juyeon reloads with a dark smirk, noticing the guard's stats are actually high enough to resist the debuffs. He steps out from the shadows, deciding he will just have to drain the guy's health the manual way. The cornered sentry screams in sheer terror as Juyeon closes the distance. Deep inside the cave, radio static cuts in as High Command asks the recon team for an update. The operative holding the radio reports that contact with the entrance sentries was completely lost. Fearing an invasion, the enemy officers order all units to rush deeper into the cavern and guard the treasure. Outside, Juyeon immediately ignites a massive surge of fire magic. He unleashes a raging fire storm spell that completely swallows the enemy front line. An enemy tank struggles behind a heavy magic barrier, barely holding off the flames. Haijai looks on in disbelief at how intense Juyeon's fire output has gotten. To break their guard, Juyeon follows up with a direct lightning bolt strike. Electrical currents surge straight through the barrier, electrocuting the enemy tank on the spot. With their main defensive line down, the blonde squad leader orders his mages to attack. The raider reinforcements charge forward, underestimating Juyeon now that his initial spell cycle is done. Juyeon stands completely unfazed and begins gathering radiant energy around his body. He triggers Limit Break, stacking random stat buffs like attack power, magic boost, and defense penetration all at once. Dark fire sparks around him as the skill buffs take full effect. The enemy leader mocks him, convinced an E-rank fireball spell cannot pierce their heavy magic nullification shield. My goat leaps dynamic into the air, aiming his boosted spell right at their defense grid. A giant pillar of fire detonates on impact, blasting enemy combatants off their feet. The defense penetration buff tears straight through their 95% magic barrier, burning the enemy leader. Juyeon stands over the defeated squad, taunting them as he prepares to take their treasure. Red energy flashes through the cavern as he initiates a secondary skill chain. His hooded silhouette looms over the battlefield like a final boss. A broadcast goes out commanding all remaining raider units to regroup at the mountain summit. Juyeon triggers explosion, blowing the entire cave mouth completely off the side of the mountain. The massive blast shakes the peak, forcing Raider High Command to abort all current plans and order an immediate retreat. Juyeon happily hauls a massive armful of boss loot out in the snow, wondering how people even carry all this stuff around. Haijai and her tank partner realize they have way too many items to sell without drawing unwanted attention. She sighs, knowing that even relying on the black market has its limits. Her tank partner points out that Juyeon can just use the gear himself instead of selling it. Juyeon pulls out the SS-grade bracelet of mimicry and hands it toward Haijai. The bracelet lets the wearer copy half the effects of another equipped accessory without taking up a normal slot. Haijai winks and insists he keep it, saying an SS-grade item should go to the party's main powerhouse. She officially calls Juyeon their party ace, leaving him completely stunned. With item distribution finished, the party agrees to clear out before enemy backup shows up. Before leaving, Juyeon suddenly stops as he notices something suspicious on the fallen raiders. He spots small body cams strapped to their gear, recording everything. Knowing hostile forces could use the footage to track them, Juyeon crushes every camera on the scene. Over at Raider Guild headquarters, boss Lin Zioling cracks her knuckles in a dark rage. An injured raider bows before her desk, trembling as he delivers the bad news. Lin Zioling erupts with a dark aura, furious that her advance team was wiped out and the bracelet of mimicry stolen. The subordinate kneels on the carpet, explaining that the entire treasure retrieval squad was annihilated. She demands to know why they cannot just review the body cam footage from the raid. When he admits all the cameras were destroyed, Lin Zioling slumps back, impressed by the killer's cold strategy. Assuming the massive explosions mean Psychopath was behind it, she singles him out as the main culprit. She slams her foot onto her desk, ordering her guild to run a complete background check on Psychopath. Lin Zioling vows that next time, she will personally retrieve both the bracelet and Psychopath's head. Back at the apartment, Juyeon meets with Haijai and the tanker to map out their next moves. Juyeon explains his plan to hoard high-grade boss items for now so enemy guilds cannot track their location. Haijai admits she intentionally let her name leak earlier to take the heat off Juyeon. She pulls out a digital tablet, assuring him she still intends to keep hunting alongside him. Haijai notes that Juyeon has reached level 20, which changes how low-tier field rewards work. Juyeon counts on his fingers, while Haijai checks off the F-grade field bosses he has defeated so far. They review his hit list, covering major targets like Spider Queen, Lizard King, and Mountain Python. Juyeon realizes special field bosses like Hanel do not count toward the regional field boss limit. He freaks out after mathing it up and realizing he is still short one F-grade boss soul. Haijai taps her tablet, reminding him that once he levels past the cap, he loses those boss rewards forever. She grins brightly and suggests they immediately sweep every remaining low-grade field across the map. They head to the Sinjuri coastal sand dune to hunt down the area boss, Sand Giant. Juyeon flares his fire magic and charges right into battle against the towering sand monster. He throws his hands up in victory as the system confirms he absorbed the Sand Giant's soul. Haijai and her tank partner stand there completely awestruck by how fast Juyeon cleared the raid. Our boy casually checks his phone timer, proud of his record 5-minute and 45-second run. Haijai playfully jumps toward him to celebrate locking down all the low-grade boss souls. Juyeon laughs it off, secretly thrilled by how much power his new bracelet gives him. He knows Haijai thinks he copied his elemental ring, but he actually targeted an even stronger accessory. By mimicking Hanel's cursed necklace, his new bracelet grants massive stat boosts across the board. Juyeon literally kisses his buffed bracelet in joy, leaving Haijai completely bewildered. He strikes a proud pose, gloating that he might even surpass world number 1 ranker Muhammad Al at this rate. Up in a cosmic realm, tutorial fairy Ego watches Juyeon's boastful antics from above. Ego smirks and reaches her hand through a glowing portal to drop a new challenge on him. Juyeon turns around in surprise as a bright system quest window materializes in front of him. Main Quest 2 triggers, ordering him to conquer the A-grade special field known as the Land of Hell's Plague. Juyeon literally drools at the screen when he sees the massive 99,000 SB reward. He pulls out his smartphone to look up where this new special field is located. Juyeon turns ghost white in shock when his weather app shows the target zone is sitting at minus 40 degrees Celsius. Juyeon admit the new system quest sounds ridiculous, but he has no choice if he wants those massive reward points. Kim Hae-jae points out that even with his high stats, he lacks the raid leadership experience to clear high-tier special fields alone. Plus, entering foreign special fields means dealing with strict international permits and heavily guarded checkpoints. Hae-jae explains that top-tier fields are locked down by elite rankers, meaning generic guild access will not get him through. She decides to set that issue aside for a moment to focus on something more immediate. Instead of hunting standard field bosses, Hae-jae tells Juyeon it is time to start phase 2 of his growth strategy. Juyeon is caught off guard when she already knows how he optimizes his offensive setup. He explains that finding SS rank skills to copy is hard because high-ranking users hide their skill sets from the public. Unlike Mohammed Al, who loves showing off on streams, most top hunters keep their abilities completely secret. Hae-jae and her tank partner suggest looking for professional buff sellers who offer high-tier skill casts. The party gets surprised when Juyeon says he already has a contact lined up. Our boy pulls out his phone and shows them he has a direct line to a high-grade buffer. Meanwhile, in the cosmic realm, tutorial fairy Ego reports to the goddess that Juyeon accepted his second main quest. Ego wonders if Juyeon is still the same hero she once knew, considering he lost his past memories. Still, Ego holds on to her faith, believing he remains the true hero who saved her world. The goddess displays a vision of Juyeon's party and tells Ego to go support him. As divine lights surround her, Ego is given total freedom to choose how she will aid Juyeon. Back on Earth, Hae-ju answers Juyeon's call with high energy, instantly agreeing to meet up. Waiting at Seoul Grand Park, Hae-jae gets suspicious that an SS-rank buffer came all this way without asking for a travel fee. Juyeon just smugly boasts that people simply love him that much. The tanker stays on guard, feeling like this deal sounds way too good to be true. Hae-ju suddenly arrives and immediately clings to Juyeon's arm. She pouts cutely, complaining that he took way too long to reach out to her again. Hae-jae glares in pure annoyance at how familiar Hae-ju is acting with him. Our boy nervously stammers out an excuse, claiming he was just slammed with work. Hae-jae steps in with a forced smile, introducing herself to take control of the meeting. Hae-ju projects a ferocious tiger aura behind her smile, subtly asserting her power as an SS-rank buffer. She slyly probes Hae-jae, asking if she is just a friend or something more special to Juyeon. When Juyeon tries to joke that Hae-jae is his manager, she instantly smacks him across the back. While the tanker catches a wheezing Juyeon, Hae-jae cuts straight to business and lays out their skill requirements. Hae-ju asks what exact buff profile and price range they are aiming for. Juyeon points straight to Hae-jae, telling Hae-ju to settle the payment details with his sponsor. The group gathers at the park landmark to narrow down the best SS rank options available. Hae-ju opens up her skill selection UI panel to present her top buff spells. She shows off Heavenly Harmony, a divine buff that boosts all stats and scales directly with magic power. As Juyeon previews the skill energy, musical light circles wrap around him. Hae-ju smiles happily, confident she brought exactly what he needed. Watching from the cosmic realm, Ego looks on anxiously to see which skill he chooses. Juyeon thinks back to his past as a hero, recalling how he always prioritized offensive efficiency over defense. His combat philosophy has always been simple: the best defense is a relentless offense. Juyeon chooses Sif's Flow instead, picking the buff for its cooldown reductions and mana efficiency to power his offensive skill setup. If a field boss isn't cleared in time, regular monsters start leaking out and causing absolute chaos for anyone nearby. Juyeon sits down with Kim Hae-jae and her tank partner to discuss how risky special fields get when monster invasions trigger. Sangwook Kim checks his gear while pointing out that taking on high-tier fields without solid preparation is just asking for trouble. He warns our boy that no matter how good the quest rewards are, everyone only gets one life in these fields. Juyeon sighs while pulling up his smartphone UI, having successfully copied the SS rank trait Blood Battle. Kim Hae-jae turns around with a confused look, asking what he is even doing staring at his phone in the middle of a field. Our guy explains he is trying to trigger a skill gacha upgrade now that his copy cooldown reset, but the rank up just won't land. He repeatedly taps the copy button on his screen, burning through his limited skill attempts. The system display shows Blood Battle stats, but the rank remains stuck at SS. His remaining copy attempts hit 0, and Juyeon makes a comically soul-crushed face at his terrible gacha luck. Just when he loses hope, the system screen flashes and upgrades the trait all the way to Blood Battle X. Sangwook Kim argues that their main damage dealer needs a huge stat boost before they even think about entering foreign special fields. Juyeon pumps his fist and yells in pure triumph, thrilled that he finally landed an X-rank upgrade. While Sangwook keeps rambling about overseas field restrictions, Hae-jae's smartphone suddenly starts ringing. Hae-jae answers with a bright smile, taking a call from Lee Hae-sung of the Korea Guild while the party watches on. She hangs up and dramatically announces an urgent recruitment notice from Hae-sung. An E-grade special field named Hell Plague Land just opened to foreign hunters, and they are actively recruiting a raid squad. Hae-jae notes that while the raid prefers wizards, Hae-sung specifically asked for her as their healer. Juyeon saves Blood Battle X into his system skill storage to keep his power secret before they move out. The group enters a massive rented concert hall packed with high-level hunters gathered for the official raid briefing. Hae-jae grabs Juyeon in a playful chokehold to introduce him to the surrounding elites. Daehan Guild leader Lee Hae-sung takes the stage under a spotlight, announcing himself as the expedition raid leader. He tells the hall that the Hell Plague Land raid will launch in 10 days, as soon as survival supplies are secured. Hae-sung addresses the crowd, reminding them that every hunter in the room was carefully hand-picked from the Sky Island raid. The spotlight suddenly shifts right onto Juyeon as Hae-sung calls for individual self-introductions. Juyeon blinks in surprise as the entire room turns to look at him. An elite level 39 melee dealer stands up first, announcing his SS-grade unique trait critical hit. Juyeon feels awkward as he notices Hae-sung staring directly at him from across the hall. Sangwook Kim stands tall and proudly introduces himself as an S-grade tanker. Kim Hae-jae speaks up next, announcing her title as an S-grade flame sorcerer with Flame of the Apocalypse. Silhouettes of the crowd murmur among themselves as the introduction line finally reaches our boy. Juyeon looks down thoughtfully, deciding it is time to live up to everyone's expectations. He stands up, flares a glowing fire aura, and boldly introduces himself as Psychopath. Lee Hae-sung smirks intently at Juyeon, recognizing the notorious name right away. After the introductions wrap up, Juyeon turns to his party to ask if they want to grab food. Lee Hae-sung walks down from the stage and confronts Juyeon directly about the Sky Island boss item theft. Hae-jae quickly steps up to defuse the tension before things turn violent. Juyeon keeps his cool, explaining he dealt the highest damage during Kainal's fight and was never working with the masked group. He points out that claiming a boss drop based on top contribution isn't stealing, but fair raid logic. Our goat calmly offers to step away from the Hell Plague Land expedition entirely if Hae-sung cannot trust him. Hae-sung reveals 2 guild members died fighting Kainal, and he just needed to confirm Juyeon wasn't in cahoots with the thieves. With no malice found, Hae-sung approves Juyeon for the raid, and Hae-jae teases our boy for keeping his cool. Sangwook sighs in relief that the confrontation ended peacefully without a deadly guild clash. Hae-jae admits she was worried Hae-sung might try to PK Juyeon right there in the hall. With all the drama cleared up, Juyeon leads his party out to prepare for the long expedition ahead. The raid leadership reviews detailed tactical charts to organize squad roles for the incoming field. Supply teams organize massive shipments of winter survival gear to counter Hell Plague lands extreme freezing weather. The elites double-check their gear and inventory slots, ensuring everything is prepped for a brutal 10-day push. Tactical maps outline the entry routes into the special field where foreign hunting parties will be competing. Supplies are loaded onto transport vehicles as the raid departure time draws close. Squad captains conduct final headcount checks outside the venue before heading out. Haijai checks her crescent staff and spell reagents, making sure her support skills are fully ready. Juyeon inspects his equipment, feeling confident with his newly upgraded Blood Battle X stored and ready for action. With his gear set and a massive SB quest waiting, our boy steps forward to begin the Hell Plague land expedition. After hours on a plane and a long bus ride, our boy Juyeon finally touches down at the overseas raid site. And the freezing cold hits him so hard he can barely stop shivering. It turns out the area is plagued by climate contamination caused by the special field, turning nearby towns into ghost towns. Snow falls silently over the abandoned structures as the remaining locals wait in despair. A desperate local bows low and begs the hunters to cleanse their land, and Juyeon reassures him that they will take care of it. Suddenly, Saintess I Am Suha arrives surrounded by her hooded Jinli cult followers, making a grand show of offering salvation. The glowing emblem of the Jinli cult lights up as they preach to the crowd. Though they started small by scamming people with cheap skills, they grew powerful off their top healer. That key figure is Saintess I Am Suha, an S-rank healer who single-handedly put the cult on the map. Kim Haijai points her out to Juyeon, noticing the famous Saintess in person. Juyeon instantly recognizes them and remembers their shady past. Before he can blurt out their bad reputation in public, Kim Haijai slaps her hand over his mouth to shut him up. The cultists ignore the tension and keep offering blessings to the surrounding crowd. They announce they will rest inside the shelter until field purification begins. Kim Haijai smacks Juyeon again for his big mouth, while he insists he was just telling the truth. Lin Zioling steps up and confirms that the cult's swindling history is actually common knowledge. Lee Haisung turns around to address the incoming Raider Guild leader. Lee Haisung introduces himself as the raid leader representing Dihin Guild. He sets strict ground rules, telling everyone to stick to their own strategies and avoid unnecessary friction before the boss fight. He delivers a clear warning that peace lasts only as long as nobody crosses each other. The masked raiders glare back, keeping the tension thick. Kim Haijai cautions Juyeon to stay close and never wander off alone around the raiders. With 3 competing factions targeting the field, she stresses that they need to move fast and defeat the boss first. On D-Day, the combined raid force gathers before the massive glowing portal for final gear checks. Lee Haisung leads the expedition directly into the portal. They step out into a harsh purple snowstorm inside the land of hellish plague. The team freezes in shock as shadowy monster silhouettes emerge from the blizzard. An entire horde of undead beasts charges straight at the front line. Undead archers unleash a deadly volley of spears across the snowfield. Chaos breaks out as the undead horde slams into the hunters. Sangwook Kim holds the line with his massive shield, warning everyone that these fragile undead dump all their stats into pure attack power. After a grueling battle, the survivors retreat into a cave shelter to catch their breath. An exhausted Kim Haijai collapses on the ground and downs mana potions to recover. Lee Haisung takes charge in the shelter and orders an immediate headcount. Kim Haijai notices Juyeon glowing brightly and asks him what is going on. Juyeon's newly upgraded Blood Combat X trait is active, siphoning stats from the slaughtered monsters to boost his power. By stacking his radiant power and buff setup, he realizes he can continuously multiply his combat rank. Feeling fully energized, our boy chats comfortably with Sangwook while resting in the cave. Lee Haisung steps to the center of the cave and calls for everyone's attention. He warns the team that the field has almost no safe zones. Juyeon yawns while Lee Haesung emphasizes that their main goal is defeating the field boss without wasting resources. Lee Haesung announces they need a dedicated scout team to locate the boss. Juyeon smiles brightly and immediately raises his hand to volunteer. Haijai sits down with Juyeon to review his skill strategy. She explains that while low-level hunters just chase quick experience points, high-grade fields demand specialized builds. Understanding the unique nature of each field becomes crucial for survival. Juyeon listens quietly in his winter coat while processing her advice. She points out that having the right specialized skills can turn even a lower-level hunter into a super counter. Haijai pauses to consider how to optimize his setup for their current raid. She highlights that Juyeon's ability to freely swap skills gives him the ultimate advantage in any location. Since the Land of Plague is crawling with undead monsters, standard fire magic works, but a true counter skill is far better. Juyeon immediately pulls out his smartphone to pull up a specific counter spell. He shows Haijai and her tank partner the details for Spear of Judgment. Juyeon channels magic to test out his newly equipped holy attack. Colossal holy light spears rain down from above and instantly vaporize the advancing undead horde. Our boy poses dramatically amid the blinding golden explosions. Beams of divine light continue to pierce through the remaining monsters, clearing the area. Haijai and her tank partner stand frozen in complete shock over the piles of ash left behind. Juyeon smirks under his hood, explaining how his unique trait converts high divinity costs directly into mana. Haijai playfully pokes his cheek, complaining that he keeps his exact stat numbers a secret. She points at him in disbelief, calling his ability to bypass divinity requirements totally broken. Suddenly, her tank partner looks up as distant combat noises echo across the snowfield. He suggests heading back to camp, now that their immediate area is completely cleared. Juyeon watches the distant commotion, wondering if any powerful hunters are using skills worth copying. The group realizes the nearby explosion is from the Raider Guild engaging another wave. Haijai and her tank partner observe from a ridge, noting the raiders are managing their battle creation decently. Despite their efforts, a group of emaciated plague monsters overruns the frontline raiders. Juyeon stands confused as the tank partner credits their own effortless victory entirely to him. The tank partner rubs his chin, emphasizing just how brutal field raids normally are for average parties. He tells Juyeon to take a closer look at the ongoing chaos. Without a specialized super counter on their side, the raiders suffer heavy casualties across the field. Deciding they have seen enough, Juyeon turns around and leads the party back toward camp. A red system alert pops up, warning that fallen hunters killed in this zone revive as buffed undead slaves of plague. Back on the battlefield, the slain Raider Guild members instantly rise back up with glowing purple eyes. Juyeon hurries back and reports the revival mechanism directly to guild leader Lee Haesung. Our boy confirms that both monsters and hunters will continuously reanimate unless their bodies are thoroughly destroyed. Lee Haesung asks about the Raider Guild's status after taking such heavy losses. They confirm that corpses must be burned or decapitated to stop the revival process entirely. Murmurs spread through the cave encampment as the rest of the guild digests the disturbing news. Lee Haesung commands all scouting teams to extend their range for a few more days. 3 days later, Lee Haesung sits impatiently on a rock, growing anxious over the delayed reports. A scout comes running up to the base camp, shouting that they finally found something major. He presents recorded footage from a distance, confirming the target is far larger than any normal monster. Lee Haesung exhales a sharp breath while staring intently at the footage. The screen reveals the massive armored minotaur field boss standing in the frozen wasteland. Lee Haesung gathers the raid party to break down bodycam footage of the field boss they found earlier. The target is a giant armored bull monster surrounded by a mob of minions. A hunter suggests having ranged fighters chip away at its health from a distance. Others immediately argue back, worried that focus firing leaves them open to getting wiped and turned into undead monsters. Lee Haisung cuts through the debate and announces he will handle the boss himself after farming mob kills for 5 hours to stack his buff. He plans to rotate resting shifts to keep those stacks active before launching the main raid. With the strategy set, Lee Haisung steps onto the battlefield and starts slashing through hordes of monsters. He reflects on how his unique trait always forced him to fight alone on the front lines. As he clears a path, he glances back over his shoulder. Juyeon gives him a confident thumbs up, quietly picking off targets to cover his back. Lee Haisung smirks, realizing having real cover for once actually feels pretty good. Meanwhile, our boy Juyeon checks his own stack progression, grinning as his armor-piercing skill prepares him to steal MVP status. Fire and energy detonate across the field as the squad coordinates their offensive. Lee Haisung commands the team to leave nearby monsters barely alive so he can secure every last hit. He turns to praise Juyeon for setting up those low-health kills so perfectly. Moving deeper into the frozen zone, raiders note how the canyon ahead creates a natural bottleneck. Reconnaissance data confirms the field boss is waiting inside the canyon. Just then, a scout warns Lee Haisung that their timed quest window has completely run out. The raid team prepares to pull surrounding mobs and reset aggro to control the canyon entrance. Lee Haisung draws his broadsword, ready to lure the boss out into the open. Suddenly, a violent tremor shakes the ground, catching Juyeon and the party completely off guard. Dust erupts from the canyon path as something massive charges forward. A freezing aura sweeps across the valley. The raiders freeze in terror as the armored bull boss reveals its huge scale. Lee Haisung screams at everyone to fall back before they get crushed in the tight canyon. Panicked hunters break formation and run for their lives through the snow. Lee Haisung halts in confusion when he realizes the monster isn't coming after them. The colossal bull scrapes its hooves and stops right at the canyon boundary. It stands alone inside the valley floor, holding its position. The fleeing raiders look back, wondering why the boss abruptly gave up the chase. The boss throws its head back and unleashes a deafening roar that rattles the valley. Hunters drop to their knees in agony, clutching their ears from the shockwave. As they recover, someone points toward the canyon in complete horror. A massive wave of undead monsters emerges from the dark fog, swarming around the boss. Lee Haisung grits his teeth, realizing his whole strategy just got derailed. With the team panicking over a suicidal push into the mob wave, Juyeon silently readies himself to step up. Juyeon takes in the cliffside layout as waves of monsters start pushing everyone backward. Lee Haisung turns around in surprise, wondering what Juyeon is planning. Our boy steps up and fires a blast of magic straight toward the boss. Haisung yells in shock when he sees Juyeon attack the boss directly. The flame hits Vartan directly, proving its armor can actually be damaged. Juyeon shouts at Haisung to focus their attacks so they can break through. Haisung takes charge and commands the entire raid team to rush the boss. Hunters charge down the slope to launch a full assault. Ranged hunters panic as the mob wave swarms right up to their position. Spells rain down across the field, wiping out incoming minion mobs. Juyeon readies another fire spell while keeping an eye on the battlefield. The Minotaur boss Vartan stands tall before the entire raid team. Haisung draws his massive broadsword and leads the charge from the front. Frontline tanks hold their shields high to block the swarming mobs. Vartan snorts furiously as melee fighters try to draw its aggro. Speedy, agile fighters dart in close to lure the boss's charge. Mages line up behind the frontline to pour raw magic damage onto Vartan. Juyeon adds his own fire spell into the barrage, hitting the boss. The combined elemental attacks blast Vartan with non-stop explosions. Haisung smirks, thinking their heavy firepower is actually working. Vartan ignores the spell barrage and charges forward completely unfazed. The boss barrels straight toward the front row of hunters. Haijai's tank partner looks up in horror as Vartan looms right above him. The boss smashes through the front line, sending hunters flying through the air. Haisung dives out of the way just in time as Vartan plows past. Haisung locks his sword against the charging boss to hold it in place. Haisung shouts to the team that a stationary boss is just a punching bag. Juyeon provides spell cover while carefully analyzing how the boss moves. The fire attack forces Vartan to roar in frustration. Juyeon studies the boss's armored body to find a hidden opening. My guy notices Vartan's left leg lacks heavy armor, making it a critical weak point. Juyeon alerts Haisung to target the exposed leg to break the boss's balance. Haisung catches on instantly and prepares a massive follow-up strike. Haisung raises his broadsword as radiant light charges up the blade. He triggers Limit Break, consuming his blood stacks to power up his ultimate attack. Haisung focuses his power, determined to claim the MVP title. He executes his S-rank skill Cleave, all in one strike straight into the boss. The system confirms his S-rank skill deals massive extra damage. The slash connects cleanly, slicing Vartan's left leg right off. Haisung warns the team not to celebrate, yet because the leg might regenerate. Juyeon stands on high alert, telling everyone to keep attacking without dropping their guard. Haisung glances back at Juyeon as the environment begins to shift. Vartan staggers on one leg as a dark aura surges around its entire body. Juyeon smirks under his hood, comparing special field bosses to transforming robots. Vartan fully transforms into Phase 2, regenerating its leg and wielding a giant battle axe. Haisung looks on in utter disbelief as the new system notifications pop up. Juyeon realizes the boss's new passive cuts their damage output by 70%. Lee Haisung shouts for everyone to target the Minotaur's other leg now that Phase 2 is starting. Juyeon powers up his aura, readying a heavy attack from behind his hood. Sparks fly everywhere as Juyeon charges up enough energy to match the raid group's momentum. Juyeon observes the boss taking damage and confirms their focus fire is actually working. The boss smashes the terrain with tremendous force, shattering the stone below. Lee Haisung holds his broadsword steady, watching the boss narrow their fighting space. The Minotaur roars in fury as Phase 2 triggers, and the battlefield begins to break apart. The entire ground collapses into an abyss, sending the raiders tumbling into freefall. The Minotaur leaps across falling debris, pursuing the party while they lose their footing. Juyeon dives off the crumbling ledge, pulling out his smartphone to configure his skills in midair. Juyeon suddenly stabilizes above the chasm, catching the surrounding party off guard. Juyeon hovers comfortably in the air with his glowing flight magic active. Haiju and Haijai's tank partner stare up at Juyeon in complete shock. Juyeon swoops down just in time to scoop Haiju out of midair. Juyeon gasps in surprise as Haiju grabs hold of him during flight. Haiju wraps her arms around Juyeon's neck, relieved to be saved. Haijai's tank partner explodes in rage, shouting at Haiju to get off Juyeon immediately. Haiju yells back that adding another person would exceed the weight limit. Haijai's tank partner fumes in anger, while Juyeon tries to ignore the awkward tension. The Minotaur boss lunges through the air toward the floating hunters. Lee Haisung catches his breath as Juyeon lands a massive strike on the boss. Haiju notices Juyeon's aura fading rapidly after delivering the attack. Juyeon points out that most of the mobs he needs to refill his blood combat stacks are stranded across the cliff. Haiju clings to Juyeon while worrying that his off-balance stance will weaken his follow-ups. Juyeon ponders his next move, knowing the boss has high magic defense. Lee Haisung tries to hold out and keep the boss occupied despite taking heavy strain. The Minotaur reels back, badly damaged from the combined pressure. Lee Haesung readies his broadsword to finish off the weakened boss once and for all. Juyeon and Hyeju land safely together as the final blow connects. A system window pops up confirming that the imported skill options have adapted to Juyeon. Juyeon holds Hyeju close while high-level skill energy swirls around them. The Minotaur boss disintegrates into dark particles, signaling the end of the fight. A system window details the massive stats and bonuses granted by the one-sword sever skill. The surviving raiders look back in disbelief at the fallen monster. The giant Minotaur collapses completely, leaving behind a massive trail of smoke. Dust settles across the cavern as the raid team catches their breath after victory. Lee Haesung glares in shock, realizing Juyeon used an upgraded version of his own signature skill. Juyeon puts on an awkward smile under his hood, trying to figure out how to explain copying the guild leader's move. Lee Haesung glares in complete shock, instantly recognizing the move Juyeon just pulled. Juyeon plays dumb with a goofy smile, insisting he just used a regular SS rank wind cutter skill. Lee Haesung turns back toward the fallen monster, suddenly realizing no soul energy entered his body. He draws his sword back out in alarm, suspecting the fight isn't over yet. The rest of the team gathers around the giant red axe left behind, convinced the monster is dead. Other hunters check their status windows in total confusion, noticing nobody gained any experience points. Juyeon pulls out his system UI and realizes White Captain Barton was just a sub-boss, not the main field boss. Our boy pulls up the loot screen for Barton's twin blades to show the team. The item display reveals S-rank weapons stacked with heavy strength and stamina stat boosts. The hunters freak out over the crazy stats, finally learning the boss's actual name. Lee Haesung steps forward to address Juyeon about distributing the raid rewards. He walks right up to Juyeon while everyone waits to see what happens. Following guild rules, Haesung officially offers Juyeon the first pick of the loot as the raid MVP. Juyeon picks up the giant red axe, weighing his options carefully. Haesung looks completely stunned by what Juyeon says next. Juyeon proposes selling his MVP priority rights directly back to the guild leader. He lays out his deal, demanding priority purchase rights for whatever item drops from the real field boss instead. To sweeten his side, our goat adds that he wants 50% of the appraisal value in cold hard cash. Haesung stares down at the weapon, calculating if taking this massive gamble is actually worth it. Haesung hesitates, pointing out that nobody knows if the actual field boss will drop anything at all. Haesung decides to take the bet, grabbing the axe shaft to lock in the deal. The surrounding hunters watch in disbelief as the two hand over the weapon. Hyeju walks up to Juyeon, curious why he gave up such an insane weapon so easily. She jokingly asks if they can share turns using whatever staff drops next. Suddenly, a toxic purple fog washes over the entire snowy field as Stage 1 plague activates. A group of red-masked raiders curses in frustration as poison constantly drains their health. They remind each other to hurry and track down Psychopath to take the boss treasure. A scout spots a lone shadowy figure moving through the heavy blizzard ahead. The squad assumes it's just an easy wandering monster and prepares for a quick kill. Out steps a terrifying skeletal reaper holding a beating heart in its hand. Before they can react, a giant purple spider drops from above and ambushes the squad. The unit lead desperately orders all healers to cast Cleanse as the poison effect triggers again. The healers collapse in panic, crying out that their mana is completely empty. The spider monster traps the helpless hunters in thick webbing. Saintess I Am Suha steps in just in time, casting an A-rank cross barrier to shield the party. She commands all holy magic users to focus their attack skills on the beast. The spider boss melts under the holy light as system windows confirm its defeat. Dense purple clouds loom over the frozen trees as Stage 2 plague settles in. Far away, shadowy cult elders sit in a dimly lit council chamber. They debate Saintess Ayam Suha's recent choices during the raid. One elder addresses her role directly across the table. The high priest claims divine grace and his guidance are the only reasons she survived. He questions how she could walk out of such a dangerous field dimension unharmed. The elders scheme over their political control within the cult. In flashback memory, the high priest reminds Suha that her mother will only awaken if she obeys his every command. The head elder listens silently while taking in the field reports. The council finalizes their orders to enforce strict control over field operations. Saintess Ayam Suha stands alone in the field, trapped in the cult's web while unleashing her holy aura. Hunters in the snow are already groaning as constant status debuffs start wearing them down. The party realizes someone took out a mini-boss along the way, meaning the main field boss isn't far behind. Hunters start losing their minds as the debuff stacks show no signs of stopping. Suddenly, holy energy lights up the freezing sky, signaling the arrival of a major force on the field. Raid squads scramble across the snowy field to secure their positions. Nearby hunters spot the Raider Guild advancing directly toward the disturbance. A colossal scythe slashes through the air, trailing dark purple aura across the battlefield. Juyeon pauses as a blue system alert pops up right in front of him. The surrounding hunters realize the official boss quest notification just triggered for everyone. Plague Hybrid, a colossal skeletal entity swathed in dark robes, steps onto the field wielding a massive scythe. Lee Haisung rallies his men, refusing to stand back while the Truth Sect steals the boss kill. Hybrid opens its bone jaw wide, unleashing a terrifying laugh over the field. Juyeon and his party brace themselves as the boss's pressure presses down on them. A red barrage of magical energy rains down, marking targeted hunters across the snow. Our boy Juyeon dives out of the way just in time as energy beams slam into the snow. Truth Sect cultists panic as their own comrades' bodies turn rock hard from the boss's mind control status effect. The cultists look up in horror as Hybrid's shadow looms right over them. Hybrid swings his scythe, sending a dark shockwave sweeping through the cultists. An elder cultist clutches his chest in confusion, realizing something is horribly wrong with his body. The boss suddenly stops moving, leaving swirling dark aura in the air as hunters question why it stopped attacking. A few eager hunters assume this pause is their best opening to strike. Juyeon checks his phone interface, realizing ordinary attacks won't stop whatever skill the boss is charging up. Hybrid's skill triggers, causing the afflicted cultists to violently detonate in flames. When incoming holy attacks hit, Hybrid effortlessly blocks them with an S-rank plague shield. An enraged cultist screams and channels every bit of holy magic he has left. A massive beam of divine light strikes down, engulfing the skeletal boss. Unfazed, Hybrid channels summary execution, bringing down a screen-clearing slash. Juyeon and Sangwook Kim scream in shock as the destructive wave hurtles straight at them. Hybrid roars furiously as dark purple energy surges around its skeletal form. Juyeon flips backward in the snow, shouting at everyone to clear out at least 100 meters. Juyeon stops dead in his tracks when he notices Kim Haijai isn't with them. Kim Haijai is collapsed in the snow, paralyzed under the boss's lethal fear debuff. Hybrid grins sadistically, locking eyes on its helpless target. Sangwook Kim desperately shakes Kim Haijai to snap her out of it, but Juyeon knows physical strength can't lift an S-rank debuff. With only 20 seconds to save her, Juyeon sprints through the battlefield straight towards Saintess Ayam Suha. Juyeon grabs Ayam Suha's arm, frantically asking if she has an S-grade purification skill. Before the surrounding cultists can react, Juyeon vanishes into a blur. My guy Juyeon launches into the air carrying the Saintess, physically abducting her to save his teammate. Juyeon tells Saintess Ayam Suha that she is the only one who can clear the debuff and save Kim Haijai. Saintess Ayam Suha locks in, clasping her hands to channel her holy power. She unleashes Tears of the Goddess, a high-tier purification spell that completely wipes away the party's status ailments. Juyeon shouts for everyone to move right as Habrid swings his scythe. Sangwook Kim holds Kim Haijai close as the giant skeletal boss looms directly over them. He braces for impact, using his body to shield Haijai from the incoming blow. Habrid sweeps his massive scythe through the air, sending hunters flying across the snow. Sangwook Kim and Haijai take the brunt of the shockwave, crashing hard onto the freezing ground. With the immediate danger past, Juyeon walks straight up to Saintess Imsuha to thank her for saving his teammate. Her cultist followers immediately swarm in, enraged that a random guy is standing so close to their saintess. Juyeon casually explains that while he is not religious, he respects her choice to step up and help. He tells her straight up that his gratitude is for her actions, not divine providence, leaving her completely stunned. The cult guards rush in to shove Juyeon back, screaming at him for disrespecting God's holy will. Our boy just gives them a thumbs up, compliments her skill, and leaps back into position. Juyeon checks on Haijai and Sangwook Kim, double-checking that her condition is back to normal. Haijai rubs her head, admitting she has no memory of what happened after the debuff hit. Frontline tanks face down Habrid as the boss readies instant execution to mark new targets with fear. Juyeon watches closely, realizing instant execution is an instant kill mechanic that bypasses defenses. System notifications confirm the boss's skill rules, highlighting its defense penetration and mark mechanics. Juyeon ponders his options, knowing they must break Habrid's pestilence shield before the execution timer runs out. Habrid channels his pestilence shield, which absorbs incoming damage by consuming its own mana pool. The boss snarls in fury, maintaining its near-impenetrable barrier. Juyeon glances back at the Truth Sect, realizing copying Tears of the Goddess would cost too much mana and only buy time. Habrid swings its weapon to command a massive horde of undead minions across the field. Swarming undead soldiers charge forward, attempting to overrun the frontline raiders. Lee Haisung smirks with total confidence, ready to cut down the incoming mob. Haijai ignites her staff with S-rank fire magic, promising to make up for lost time. Juyeon ignites his blade with fiery elemental aura, deciding to save his last skill slot for a decisive strike. The frontline hunters clash directly with the undead wave, holding the line against the horde. Lee Haisung and Juyeon slash through the minion wave together to build up their attack stacks. Juyeon carves through the remaining undead, confirming he finally has enough stack power to burst the boss. My guy unleashes a massive wave of fire magic directly toward Habrid. The elemental fire blast slams into Habrid's pestilence shield with immense force. Juyeon's overwhelming magic power overpowers the barrier, causing visible cracks to spread across its surface. Habrid reels in disbelief as its primary defense crumbles under the attack. With its shield shattered, Habrid roars in rage as toxic green sludge erupts across the entire battlefield. Lee Haisung spots the new attack pattern and shouts for every hunter to fall back immediately. The toxic corruption of Land of Plague spreads rapidly across the snow, covering the region in poison. System alerts flash in front of Juyeon, warning him of continuous poison damage and severe plague exposure. Juyeon recoils as status windows clutter his vision during the middle of the field hazard. Fallen hunters collapse in the plague zone, triggering a chain reaction that spawns execution marks on nearby survivors. Juyeon watches in frustration as the death toll causes instant kill marks to multiply across the raid. He realizes that using a purification spell now would only stall for time rather than win the fight. A Truth Sect guard forcibly restrains Saintess Imsuha, ordering her to stay back as she tries to heal the dying. Imsuha stammers in protest, desperately wanting to step forward and save lives. Juyeon turns back and notices her struggle, moved by her genuine desire to help. Imsuha breaks free from her guard, crying out that she refuses to stand by and watch people die. Her guard can only watch as she pours her heart out, choosing to fight despite her fear. She reaches out to channel her ultimate holy aura, willing to put everything on the line to protect everyone. Juyeon activates his smartphone UI, preparing to copy her skill and turn the entire battle around. Saintess Suha casts her ultimate divine spell, completely refilling everyone's health bars in an instant. While the raiders celebrate, her own cultists just watch with unreadable expressions. She immediately collapses because breaking heaven's rules burns through 95% of her life force. The trade-off gives the entire party complete status immunity and boosted recovery for 5 full minutes. Her handlers do not seem to care about her condition at all. With their health restored, the frontlines rally and rush back into the fight before the buff expires. Hunters scramble across the field, dodging incoming energy blasts from the boss. Lee Haesung grinds his teeth as the lack of minion mobs makes it impossible to maintain his combat stats. The frontline tanks dig in to hold the line against the surging purple plague aura. Haesung screams for everyone to push forward despite the overwhelming pressure. The cultist raiders panic as dark tendrils tear straight through their squad. Seeing the raid fall apart, the cult leaders whisper among themselves and prepare to abandon ship. They order Suha to fall back, planning to use Haesung's team as human decoys while she weeps for the dying party. Refusing to let everyone die, she closes her eyes in prayer, and a pillar of divine light erupts into the sky. Habrid sweeps its massive scythe as Haesung launches one last desperate strike. Out of nowhere, our boy Juyeon descends from the heavens, with dark wings flaring to turn the tide. Suha kneels in the snow, watching the miraculous entry in total shock. Her cult handler places a hand on her shoulder, reminding her of her holy place. Surrounded by a golden halo, she turns back toward the battlefield with renewed determination. A blinding flash of radiant light washes over the entire area. Suha ascends into the sky with massive divine wings, fully unleashed as the Saintess of God. The golden light clears the dark skies, setting the stage for the final clash. Juyeon looks down at Saintess Suha kneeling in prayer, realizing how far she went to save the raid. Seeing her desperate prayer, he admits he originally thought her sacrifice skill was a literal suicide move. He checks his interface and breathes a quick sigh of relief that it does not actually kill the user. In fact, draining 95% of his health is the exact condition needed to trigger his copied skill, Descent. He rubs his chin in thought, realized he can now manually drop his own health to activate his ultimate form whenever he wants. Rows of glowing heavenly swords materialize around him, proving he can now freely summon Kainal's signature weapons. Spreading his wings, our boy launches a massive barrage of glowing spears straight down into the battlefield. He strikes a smug pose and tells the boss to die, fully enjoying his power high. Then he notices Saintess Suha watching him in total awe, wrapped in sparkling light. Juyeon breaks sweat, getting an immediate bad feeling about where all this unearned holy praise is heading. The skeletal boss Habrid towers over the snowy field, raising its massive scythe for one last stand. Juyeon swoops down through the air, dropping right in front of the giant monster. Igniting his heavy blade with dark flame aura, he prepares to wipe out the boss for good. He swings his sword downward, stacking blood burst with one sword severance in a single strike. A massive vertical pillar of fire erupts through the air, cleaving straight through the field boss. Habrid completely shatters, dissolving into a cloud of dark energy. Juyeon stands calmly as the dark aura fades, leaving the surrounding hunters completely speechless. The raiders burst into celebration across the snowfield when a new passive skill grants the whole party status immunity. Lee Haesung strides forward in his heavy armor, ready to claim the raid rewards. Kim Cheolmin steps into view, representing the Church of Truth to negotiate the boss drops. The two guild leaders face off in the snow to figure out how to split the loot. Kim Cheolmin smoothly introduces himself as the leader of the Church of Truth. Lee Haesung keeps his tone strict, introducing himself right back. Kim Cheolmin smirks under his hood, taking credit for keeping party casualties low. Lee Haesung offers quick thanks for their battle support so they can finally check the drop. He glances at the ground loot and realizes the primary boss item is missing. An instant memory hits him of a hooded thief snatching loot right under his nose. Lee Haesung's face turns red as pure fury takes over. Juyeon suddenly pops up right behind him with a cheerful smile, asking if he was called. Lee Haesung turns around bewildered, but our boy acts like he just finished killing the boss and walked over. He rubs his nose bashfully, acting embarrassed by all the sudden glare. While Lee Haesung seethes in silence, Juyeon maintains a blank face, playing totally innocent. A system window confirms he pocketed the SS-rank boss material, Habrid's core. Juyeon glances down at his smartphone UI, secretly admiring his stolen loot. Night falls over the city streets as snow gently settles over the buildings. Safely back in his civilian clothes, Juyeon casually strolls down the street, slipping away without a trace. Kim Cheolmin corners Juyeon right as he steps out of the snow, demanding to know what he was doing back there after the boss died. When Juyeon tries playing dumb, Cheolmin gets visibly heated and calls him an arrogant brat for daring to lie. Lee Haesung steps into the standoff alongside his raid party to keep things from completely turning into a brawl. Juyeon holds up a broken blade, claiming his old sword snapped, and he just scavenged a dead player's weapon off the ground. Lee Haesung raises a hand to cut off the argument and proposes a simple way to settle the dispute. He directly asks Juyeon if he took the boss drop, pointing out that stealing loot without an agreement causes major issues. Juyeon denies taking it without breaking sweat. Since he denies it, Haesung demands to inspect the stats on the weapon in his hand. Juyeon grips his sword hilt and plays offended, making it sound like they are insulting his honor after he did all the heavy lifting. Haesung tells him to prove his innocence with confidence if his anger is actually justified. Cheolmin sneers on the side, convinced he is about to catch Juyeon red-handed. So Juyeon turns it into a bet, forcing Cheolmin to promise him first pick of any dropped boss loot if the sword turns out to be trash. With the bet officially locked in, our boy slowly draws the blade so they can inspect it. Before anyone can read the stats, Saintess I am Suha steps forward and interrupts the inspection. Juyeon looks back in surprise as the surrounding raiders instantly recognize the Saintess who saved their lives earlier. She closes her eyes in quiet contemplation, having made up her mind about where her allegiance lies. She announces that regardless of the sword's origin, she believes Juyeon deserves the boss item anyway. Cheolmin grabs her shoulder and tells her to stay out of it, insisting this goes against God's will. Suha firmly slaps his hand away, shouting that real heroes save people when they are in danger, while Cheolmin did nothing. Cheolmin grimaces in sheer disbelief as she publicly calls him out for being a fraud. Suha turns her back on the Church of Truth, rejecting their hypocritical claims that she is powerless on her own. Juyeon stands there totally bewildered as she walks over and decides her divine power is hers to use. She points right at Juyeon and declares him the true hero she intends to follow. The surrounding hunters gasp in shock as the Saintess officially abandons her own cult leader. Cheolmin grits his teeth in absolute fury, realizing he just lost his biggest asset. He snaps and screams at her for being ungrateful after everything he did to keep her alive. Driven by pure greed, Cheolmin disowns her on the spot and snatches the sword directly out of Juyeon's hand. He laughs like a maniac, claiming that since she no longer represents the church, the weapon belongs to him. The moment his hand grips the hilt, the system window pops up revealing the weapon's true identity as the C-rank trap item, Candle of Self-Destruction. Juyeon flashes a villainous smirk, smugly noting that Cheolmin is done checking the weapon. Cheolmin freezes in horror as the sword starts glowing in his hands. Our boy gleefully announces that since his innocence is proven, he is taking his guaranteed boss loot as promised. Haijai calls out after Juyeon as he turns around and immediately dashes away from the scene. Saintess Suha realizes he is leaving and gasps in shock. She takes off sprinting right behind him, yelling for her hero to wait up. Lee Haesung stands in total confusion, completely unable to wrap his head around what just happened. Left behind in the snow field, the remaining raid members settle down to divide the rest of the generic boss drops. Without stat buffs active, Juyeon is completely gasping for breath and realizing he seriously needs to hit the gym. Kim Haijai steps up and demands an explanation, knowing full well he secured the actual boss loot. Juyeon just gives a guilty smirk, trying to figure out how to explain his trick. He pulls out the real boss weapon, revealing he secured it right after defeating Habrid. He explains that he stashed the real item among the fallen raiders, planning to retrieve it after everyone cleared out. Kim Haijai and her tank partner just shake their heads at how crafty Juyeon really is. Out of nowhere, Saintess I Am Suha floats down before the group in her white holy robes. She places her hand over her chest and formally introduces herself as I Am Suha. Juyeon starts to introduce himself before hesitating, thoroughly confused about why she followed them. She proudly declares that she came here specifically to serve him as her hero. Juyeon politely turns away, telling her he really is not into joining any religious groups. Suha immediately drops into a full face-first bow right on the frozen snow. She passionately shouts that seeing him proved he is the true agent sent to save the world. She literally slides across the ice and lands directly at his feet. Kneeling on the ground, she begs for a chance to stand by his side and help. Tears well up as she confesses she abandoned the Church of Truth and has nowhere else to go. Kim Haijai slings an arm over Juyeon, thoroughly amused by his new fanatical follower. Suha looks up in total surprise as Juyeon extends his gloved hand down to her. He makes it clear he is not accepting a worshipper, but letting her tag along to repay her debt. Suha breaks into a radiant, tearful smile now that she can stay with him. The scene shifts inside a luxury chartered private jet taking off back to South Korea. Sitting in first class, Juyeon sighs in relief that special field exemptions saved him from airport security hassles. Kim Haijai is still pretty amazed they were allowed to bring high-rank weapons straight onto the plane. Examining his new blade, our boy admits he has never traveled abroad with equipment this pricey before. Exhausted from back-to-back boss fights, Juyeon stretches out and prepares to catch some sleep. Meanwhile, world news explodes with headlines celebrating the team's historic E-rank field clearance. Raid analysis videos go viral, detailing exclusive bodycam footage from Lee Haesung's team. Over at Raider Guild HQ, the mood is completely silent. Guild leader Lin Zioling stands holding official casualty reports for her team. Every single document comes back stamped with total fatality confirmation. She holds up Juyeon's profile, furious that her entire elite 100-man unit was wiped out again. In a sudden fit of rage, Lin Zioling slashes her hand through the air and slices the papers to shreds. Her top commander steps up, offering to personally go eliminate Juyeon himself. Lin Zioling immediately shuts him down with a cold refusal. She glares back, reminding him that her officers have far more important duties to manage. Instead, she orders them to place a hit contract directly on the dark web, no matter the price. Her eyes burn with absolute venom as she demands Juyeon's head. A dark web terminal flashes to life, posting a massive 200 Bitcoin bounty on Juyeon. Back in South Korea, a swarm of press reporters gathers inside the airport arrival terminal. Lee Haesung steps through the gates in a stylish blue trench coat to meet the media. Reporters thrust microphones forward, asking how it feels to clear 2 special fields in a row. Lee Haesung delivers a grand public speech, soaking up all the credit for the victory. He shoots a sharp glance at the cameras as journalists start pressing him about the mysterious psychopath. Camera flashes go off nonstop as the press corps presses for details. Lee Haesung maintains his cool composure in front of the crowd, publicly declaring Psychopath as an SS-rank mage. A system pop-up appears, notifying Ju-yeon that SS-rank divine entities are now closely watching his progress. Radiant purple aura pulses around the floating system frame. The UI scrolls through reward calculations for clearing the special field. A brand new item acquisition window opens with glowing runes. System text confirms he has acquired the cursed Holy Sword of Plague. Ju-yeon grips the dark hilt at his hip, ready for whatever threats are coming his way. Ju-yeon freezes right at his front door when he realizes 3 people are standing right behind him. He awkwardly turns around, trying to figure out why they followed him all the way home. He asks them straight up how far they actually plan on trailing him. Suha smiles cheerfully and announces she needs to stay by his side forever now that she pledged her loyalty. Ju-yeon immediately throws his hand up and gives her a flat no. When he calls her out for clinging like a leech, Suha instantly pulls out a massive brick of cash. She casually explains she never intended to freeload and offers to pay rent on the spot. Ju-yeon, Hae-jae, and her tank partner just stand there staring in utter shock at the thick stack of bills. Ju-yeon quickly backtracks, whispering that it makes no sense to get on the bad side of an S-rank healer. He sits on the sofa with a dead serious face, trying to deduce what her real angle is. Suha blushes bright red and confesses that she actually fell for him. The confession hits the room like a thunderbolt, leaving everyone screaming in shock. As Suha gushes over how cool he looked descending like a god, Ju-yeon starts feeling flattered until Hae-jae grabs him. Hae-jae pins our boy down and aggressively demands Suha tell them her real motive. Suha just leans back on the couch totally unbothered, insisting that was the complete truth. Hae-jae snaps that they are close partners, but Suha fires right back that they look like basic business partners at best. Suha turns straight to Ju-yeon to demand what their relationship actually is. Ju-yeon starts sweating bullets under the intense pressure. Desperate to escape the crossfire, Ju-yeon screams at the tank partner to save him. After finally breaking free, he collapses onto his bed in total exhaustion. Outside his room, Suha complains about living under one roof while Hae-jae drags her away. Ju-yeon sits up in bed, ready to finally check his rewards. He smirks when he sees a massive 150,000 SB sitting in his status window. He reflects on how useful those upgrade tickets have been so far. He inspects his inventory, wondering what this mysterious seed of plague item even is. The system window confirms it contains plague power that might sprout something if planted. Since it is an S-rank item, Ju-yeon realizes standard fertilizer probably will not cut it. He shrugs and puts the seed away to worry about later. He compares his skills to running a restaurant, figuring trait upgrades bring in top-tier ingredients. He decides to use his detailed trait upgrade ticket on skill storage. He bows his head in prayer, hoping for just one extra skill usage slot. He gets a masterpiece upgrade instead, boosting stored SS rank skills by another 30%. He grumbles that unless he gets an X rank skill, the extra boost feels like overkill. His mouth drops open when the system triggers a hidden option for averaging X rank, dumping a massive 50% extra power on top. Overwhelmed by the absurd total 80% buff, Ju-yeon humorously considers becoming religious. After using his random ticket on descent, he crosses his arms and accepts the free efficiency upgrade. With his traits fully upgraded, the party heads to the B-rank Inchin Fish Farm field. Ju-yeon stands at the bow of the boat as the rest of the team prepares for action. He smirks, eager to test out his newly upgraded power. He leaps high into the air over the open water. Hae-jae ignites her staff to back him up with fire magic. Ju-yeon dives down and slashes a massive monster shark in midair. Hae-jae stares up at him in total disbelief. She gets confused watching him move like a master swordsman when his stats are supposed to be in magic. Suha hovers in a divine magic circle, stacking 4 separate prayer buffs on him at once. Juyeon feels lighter immediately and gives Suha a quick nod of thanks. Supercharged by the divine buffs, Juyeon effortlessly slashes through the monster fish. Haijai stands there utterly speechless at how fast he is clearing the field. The boat cuts through the waves as the group continues clearing the area. From a distance, mysterious raiders closely observe Juyeon's insane performance. Juyeon's party sits across from the user association desk, only to get hit with some terrible administrative news. The receptionist directly explains that healers do not get separate payouts because all earnings are tied to her registered guild contract. Saintess I am Suha leans over the counter in complete shock, insisting she already submitted her official withdrawal paperwork. She stands there totally dismayed after learning the Church of Truth intentionally held back her documents to keep stealing her loot. Sangwook steps in to break down how top guilds function like corporate sponsors rather than basic parties. He even points out Lee Haesung doing TV commercials to show how celebrity rankers make their real money. That means as long as Suha's contract stays active, every single reward she generates will keep funneling back to her old cult. Hearing that, Suha turns around with sudden resolve, realizing she has to cancel this contract in person. Juyeon checks on her to see if she is actually ready to confront her past guild members directly. Suha declares that the Church of Truth only exploited her title and she is done being used. She strikes a dramatic pose, trash-talking her former guild, and our boy hype-mans her with enthusiastic applause. She laughs brightly and tells Juyeon he can drop the formal language since they are close allies now. Kim Haijai watches them bond with an increasingly annoyed side-eye. Later inside the National Arboretum field, a wild monster boar charges right out of the brush. Haijai starts winding up her fire magic, but Juyeon steps up and steals the kill before she can land a hit. She stares at her staff in frustration, feeling completely useless next to Suha's buffs and Juyeon's damage. Juyeon awkwardly tries to reassure her, but Haijai is not having any of his gentle excuses. She speaks up intensely, reminding everyone that she became a user to reach the top, not to sit in the back. Her dark aura flares up as all her built-up insecurities finally boil over. She leans forward and shouts straight into Juyeon's face, demanding to fight alongside him as an equal. Juyeon tries explaining that he only wanted to keep ranged damage dealers safe from harm. Haijai glares right back and asks if he ever considered how that makes her feel. She screams that she is an S-rank dealer, not some cheerleader forced to watch from the sidelines. Haijai walks off into the forest alone to cool her head, so Sangwook offers to follow after her. Sangwook runs through the trees, calling out her name to catch up. Our boy is left standing alone in the quiet woods to think about what just went wrong. Sangwook finally reaches Haijai in a small clearing. He warns her that wandering off alone in an active dungeon field is dangerous. Haijai breaks down crying, asking if she is just pathetic for feeling this way. She collapses to the grass, venting that Suha's buffs make her own damage output feel totally pointless. Sangwook listens sympathetically as she pours her heart out. He places a reassuring hand on her head and reminds her that combat is about more than pure numbers. He smiles warmly, telling her that becoming the best together as a team is worth way more than fighting alone. Haijai wipes her eyes and suddenly looks around, asking where Juyeon went. When she hears Juyeon wandered off by himself too, she instantly panics. Sangwook assumes he is safe enough in a B-rank field, but Haijai snaps at him. She shouts that the real threat in dungeons is not the monsters, but ambush players targeting solo hunters. Sangwook gasps in horror as the realization of PK raiders finally hits him. Meanwhile, Juyeon looks up in confusion as dark mist begins rolling through the trees around him. He stands shocked as the pitch-black debuff fog completely seals off the surrounding forest floor. Sinister laughter echoes through the fog, confirming his magic stats and mana regen are heavily suppressed. A hostile masked raider drops down from above, mocking Juyeon for walking right into their trap. The attacker lunges forward with a lethal downward strike to execute him on the spot. Juyeon draws his blade, letting intense elemental flame aura surge across his entire body. My goat unleashes a massive pillar of fire that completely engulfs the arrogant assassin. Juyeon steps right through the blazing inferno, leaving the ambusher terrified after realizing their target is actually a master swordsman. Juyeon parries the ambushing raider and cuts him down in close quarters. Our boy realizes his sword techniques are flowing way too naturally without even thinking. Another rogue raider leaps from the dark trees to attack. The ambushers split up and start circling Juyeon from all sides. Juyeon spins around to block a strike, confused why no skill alerts popped up. He figures out they used passive illusion magic to hide their actions. Since dodging is tricky, Juyeon just blasts a huge wave of fire magic right at them. The explosive flames catch the attackers directly off guard. Juyeon catches his breath, realizing his mana takes a massive hit from big spells. The surviving raiders spot his fire magic and confirm he relies heavily on magic. Suddenly, purple energy surges back and hits Juyeon out of nowhere. Juyeon reels from the impact, shocked by the sudden counter. The damage reflection skill triggers a full blast across the forest. Kim Haijai and Sangwook Kim step in to back Juyeon up. Sangwook steps up front, locking down enemy attacks with his shield. Juyeon shouts a warning that the enemy is reflecting damage. Haijai just smirks, fully confident in her combat experience. The raiders laugh her off, thinking her magic output is too weak to pierce their armor. Haijai ignites her staff, reminding them that fighting humans requires a different mindset. Instead of direct hits, she burns the air around them to suffocate the target. The rest of the ambushers panic as their strategy completely fails. Sangwook slams his massive tower shield down to crush the last enemy. The attacker groans on the ground, completely subdued. Sangwook and Haijai stand victorious after cleaning up the fight. Juyeon admits raw damage is not everything and respects Haijai's tactical edge. Haijai immediately scolds Sangwook for leaving Juyeon alone in the first place. Seeing how well they fight together gets Juyeon thinking about his party role. Haijai snaps at Juyeon to wait his turn while she finishes lecturing. Juyeon cuts in anyway because he has a serious declaration to make. Haijai stares at him in complete confusion. Meanwhile, the user association gathers high-level executives for a priority meeting. Officials review digital map readings, confirming a DMZ treasure dungeon. The director insists they must deploy a small elite strike team immediately. They nominate S-rank leader Lee Hae-sung and Juyeon for the team. Everyone pauses seeing Juyeon is officially registered as a weak F-rank healer. Executives stress that falling behind in this international raid will ruin their user industry. Back at home, Saintess I am Suha happily pledges full devotion to Juyeon. Suha reveals an anonymous donor was funneling cash to keep her tied to the Church of Truth. When Suha warns that raiders might attack, Juyeon mentions they were already handled. Juyeon gives Haijai full credit for taking down the ambushers. He admits relying purely on burst damage magic has clear limits. Haijai blushes and teases him for buttering her up. Juyeon lays out a proper plan to organize their party roles. Sangwook takes the main tank role up front. Haijai handles ranged magic DPS. Suha covers team healing and divine stat buffs. Juyeon officially switches his main combat build to close-range swordsman. The party agrees the balanced composition makes complete sense. Juyeon checks his gear and gets ready for the next field run. He pulls on his traveling cloak as his phone starts ringing. An association official calls to summon Juyeon directly for the DMZ operation. An association official discusses online posts about Ju-yeon's temper, worried he might defy orders. He smugly insists that controlling Ju-yeon won't be a problem since they hold leverage over his false registration. When Ju-yeon arrives, he sits completely unfazed as three S-rank allies stand behind him, emitting an intimidating presence. Among them is the S-rank tank Kim Sang-wook, looking sternly at the negotiator. Next to him stands the S-rank pyromancer Kim Hae-jae. And completing the lineup is Saintess Im Suha, standing firmly by Ju-yeon's side. Sweating profusely, the official claims this meeting is confidential and asks why Ju-yeon didn't come alone. Hae-jae steps forward with a smile, taking total control of the discussion. She presents official agency documents, proving she is legally authorized to represent Ju-yeon in all official matters. Sang-wook and Suha pose stoically as they are confirmed as Ju-yeon's permanent party members. When Hae-jae jokes that she and Ju-yeon could handle the fine details by themselves, Suha panics. Suha passionately protests, insisting humanity's hero cannot be left without her support. Sang-wook steps in to bring the meeting back to order, addressing the official directly. He glares intensely, making it clear that sending a newly awakened hunter like Ju-yeon out alone is off the table. Trying to regain control, the official attempts to bring up registration discrepancies for the official record. Hae-jae shuts him down immediately, confirming all class and field activity details are already fully covered in their contract logs. Cornered, the official argues that registering directly with the association comes with far better support and protection. Seeing his legal tactics fail, he pivots and appeals directly to Ju-yeon for his opinion. He pitches a flashy package of perks, promising rare S-class gear, priority dungeon slots, and government protection. When Ju-yeon gets excited assuming it is free, the official nervously coughs and clarifies it only gives him priority rights to buy it. The official is left speechlessly shocked when Ju-yeon immediately shuts him down with a blunt pass. Ju-yeon leans back, seeing right through the pitch and realizing the official called him for a completely different reason. As Ju-yeon gets up to leave, the panicked official leaps up to stop him. The team listens closely as the official drops the corporate act and asks for a personal request. He reveals intelligence pointing to a newly formed treasure dungeon hidden inside a cave overflowing with loot. Ju-yeon and his party take in the brief, analyzing the situation seriously. Our boy asks the obvious question, why hasn't the advance team retrieved the loot themselves? The official's face darkens as he admits the harsh truth. The group reacts in shock as he reveals that two separate advance teams vanished without a trace inside. Because the dungeon sits right on the DMZ border, official military action could provoke a war, forcing this to be a covert private raid. Sang-wook questions why they should risk entering an unranked danger zone under those conditions. To sweeten the deal, the official promises complete financial backing and zero penalties if they need to retreat. Sang-wook flinches as the terms turn out to be surprisingly favorable. The official guarantees that every party member gets first pick of any single treasure found inside. After wrapping up the meeting, the party stretches as they walk down the association hallway. Ju-yeon smiles in relief, glad the summons was actually worth his time. Sang-wook groans at the location, dreading a return to the DMZ border where he previously served. Hae-jae catches Ju-yeon's smug look and smirks, knowing he has no intention of backing out. Ju-yeon grins confidently, viewing this raid as the ultimate chance to profit off the association. Meanwhile, word of the upcoming expedition begins circulating behind closed doors. Outside the association, news of Ju-yeon's elite team mobilization quickly reaches external networks. Shadowy figures keep close tabs on the team's movements as preparations wrap up. Hostile factions track the departure of the S-rank strike team, heading directly toward the border. Lee Hae-sung arrives at the rendezvous, complaining about the relentless public spotlight surrounding his SS-class status. With all elite members assembled, the strike team prepares to cross into the restricted border zone. The path forward grows quiet as the group approaches the edge of the unranked field. They secure their gear, fully aware of the hidden threats lurking ahead. Juyeon and his allies step toward the perimeter fence, officially beginning the high-stakes DMZ treasure hunt. Juyeon steps into the unranked dungeon with Kim Sangwook and Kim Haijai close behind, immediately feeling the environment shift. The moment an S-rank cold debuff hits the party, Saintess I Am Suha offers to dispel it right away. Lee Haesung shuts that down, warning her that since it's a persistent zone effect, dispelling it now just wastes divine power. Checking his tracking unit, Haesung confirms they're close to the last known location of the missing advance team. Juyeon tries to lighten the mood by asking Sangwook if he ever ran into tigers during his frontline service. Sangwook stops dead in his tracks as his instinct flags immediate danger. Juyeon slams right into the back of Sangwook's heavy armor before he can react. Right in front of them, a giant icy monster tiger snarls from the shadows. Juyeon deadpans at Sangwook for claiming there wouldn't be any tigers out here. Sangwook raises his massive shield to form the front line while Haijai readies her spell. The ice attribute Sergeant Tiger stalk forward with glowing eyes. The party immediately tightens their formation on the cracked ice as threats close in. An entire pack of Sergeant Tigers charges them from every direction. One of the beasts leaps straight through the air with exposed claws. Sangwook catches the heavy strike on his shield and warns everyone about their freezing ice attacks. More tigers spring forward, threatening to swamp their frontline defense. Haijai swings her golden staff, unleashing a wave of fire magic to push back the ice beasts. Haesung orders everyone to advance, knowing fighting past 10 minutes will drain them through attrition. He slashes back at a pouncing tiger to keep the path clear for the group. The raid team funnels into a narrow cavern to escape the open field. Once inside, our boy and Suha catch their breath while Hyaju checks on their condition. Juyeon notices creepy spider-like landmine monsters crawling along the path, mutated by the border field. Looking up at the strange cave structures, he notices something off about their surroundings. He kneels down with Hyaju to inspect the cave floor and realizes the soil feels completely abnormal. Touching the moist wall, he realizes the entire cave texture feels alive. Suha asks about the strange environment, and Sangwook explains it's likely expanded by field mutation. Haesung points out that the missing search team lost their signal right after reporting a cave behind the waterfall. With their target clear, Haesung leads the line single file deeper into the damp tunnel. The team descends a winding ridge down into the cavern's depths. Juyeon shields his eyes as an intense, golden glare breaks through the darkness. He stares wide-eyed in total shock at what lies inside. A massive mountain of gold coins, chests, and rare equipment fills the entire chamber. The scout checks the area and confirms to Haesung that there are no physical tripwires. Juyeon and the raiders sprint straight onto the pile of gold to grab their loot. Haesung urges caution, reminding everyone to stay sharp even if detection skills came back clear. A party member pulls an ornate staff out of the pile and realizes it's S-rank equipment. Sangwook inspects a high-grade jewel ring sitting among the treasure. Our boy happily hugs a pile of axes and swords while Suha laughs at his greedy reaction. Hyaju wanders over toward a dark carved stone pillar near the edge of the gold. She turns around sharply as her instincts alert her to danger. System notification windows start popping up, warning that they lack sufficient offerings for the treasure. Dark curse energy breaks through the floor as the seal binding the dead shatters. Skeletal hands claw their way up through the mountain of gold coins. Juyeon drops his loot and readies his elemental ring for combat. Suha casts a blessing of safety as shadowy, undead entities manifest around the party. Juyeon smiles at the absurdly obvious trap, ready to fight his way out. He realizes the spawning specters are immune to physical attacks, leaving his newly picked swordsman build completely useless. Psychopath smirks in his dark armor, glad that the expensive skill he bought is finally coming in handy. Under his brown hood, Juyeon immediately triggers skill copy to snag the holy buff for himself. Psychopath starts shouting orders to the rear line, expecting a slow fight. Instead, Juyeon leaps right past him and slices straight through the specters with a holy blade strike. Psychopath loses his composure completely, yelling out in utter shock at what he just saw. Juyeon happily swings his dual blades around, thrilled that switching to a swordsman build was the right call. Watching from the shadows, Psychopath puts two and two together and realizes Juyeon must have stolen his skill master power. Deeper in the cavern, Kim Haijai unleashes Firestorm, creating a massive pillar of flame to push back the monsters. Hyeju steps up next, spreading glowing divine wings as she prepares to throw out her SS-grade party buffs. Empowered by the stat boost, Haijai leaps back into combat wrapped in a blazing aura. Hyeju keeps watch in the background, while Juyeon assesses the remaining threats in the cave. Our boy charges forward, executing 3 rapid holy slashes to carve through the front line. Suddenly, an intense pressure washes over the field, making Juyeon grit his teeth as he guards his face. Saintess I am Suha's golden aura manifests behind Juyeon, helping him slow down incoming debuffs. Suha calls out to the team, offering to buy everyone time before the cold field freezes them solid. That is when the main boss fully awakens, revealing the massive corrupted world tree looming over the cavern. The entire raid party ends up scattered across the tree's giant glowing red branches. Juyeon looks up in absolute awe at the ridiculous size of the boss. Dark purple energy surges through the world tree trunk as the party realizes this fight is way beyond a quiet raid. Poisonous miasma floods the branches, leaving the frontliners panicking as their mana gets wiped out. Desperate to keep everyone alive, Hyeju hovers in golden light and pours out every buff she has left. Juyeon stares at his hands in disbelief as his own combat stats take a massive hit. He turns around in shock, wondering where Hyeju is even pulling this level of mana from. Hyeju collapses to her knees from total exhaustion, prompting Juyeon to rush straight to her side. Psychopath screams at everyone to fall back immediately before the party gets completely wiped. Juyeon grabs Hyeju's shoulder, trying to pull her up so they can get out safely. Hyeju looks up with desperate eyes and tells him they cannot run because the world tree is the final catalyst. Juyeon stands there frozen in confusion, trying to process what she means. Tears well up in Hyeju's eyes as she struggles through the pain to speak. She looks right at Juyeon and desperately begs him for help. Psychopath grabs Juyeon by the armor, shouting at him to snap out of his daze and focus. Before Juyeon can react, the ground violently shakes beneath them. Massive red corrupted roots burst out of the earth right behind them. The roots instantly snag Hyeju, leaving Juyeon screaming out her name in panic. Juyeon reaches out helplessly as the corrupted roots drag Hyeju straight down into the dark abyss. Juyeon's eyes widen as Saintess I am Suha unleashes a sudden divine light. Suha burns 95% of her HP for Goddess's sacrifice, giving the entire team 5 full minutes of total status immunity. Golden light and holy feathers wash over the raid group, completely wiping away every single boss debuff. Hyeju closes her eyes in relief as her strength immediately returns. Lee Haesung shouts out in disbelief as Juyeon steps right up to finish off the boss. Our boy just smirks back over his shoulder, completely confident in what comes next. Juyeon casts Fire Storm through Skill Master, throwing a massive wall of fire straight into the cavern. The fiery blast incinerates the entire area in seconds. Silence settles over the dark cavern as the flames die down. Juyeon turns around completely unharmed while the smoke clears behind him. Lee Haesung and the rest of the party just stare at him in sheer shock. The cavern quiet doesn't last very long though. My guy acts completely innocent, playing dumb like he didn't just blow up the whole field boss. Suddenly, furious shouting echoes from the cavern entrance. Fully armed North Korean soldiers breach the cave and aim their rifles right at the party. The commander yells at everyone to surrender immediately or get shot on the spot. Juyeon slowly puts his hands up, acting more annoyed by the hassle than actually worried. The military completely surrounds the hunters and all the gold piles inside the border cavern. Juyeon glances around, calmly figuring out his exit plan. The soldiers keep their triggers tight while the standoff builds. A desperate voice suddenly screams at everyone to freeze. Director Han from the User Association comes sprinting right past the gun barrels. Lee Haesung holds his hands up next to his broadsword while Han steps up. Director Han sweats bullets as he screams at the commander for making a scene. Haesung can only roll his eyes while the politicians start arguing. Juyeon just chuckles to himself in the back, loving every second of this disaster. Director Han steps across the gold coins and demands legal custody of all the South Korean citizens. The North Korean commander snaps back that he doesn't care about any association and claims them as illegal intruders. While they argue, Juyeon casually pops open his holographic skill menu. The tense guards bark out more orders, trying to hold control of the room. Juyeon cuts right through the yelling and calls out directly to Director Han. He double-checks if the association's offer for full national legal protection is still on the table. Director Han immediately confirms that the deal stands. Juyeon grins cheeky and officially agrees to join the User Association. Kim Hae-jae and Sang-wook stare at him, completely stunned by his sudden choice. Juyeon winks, tells them to clean up the mess, and brings his hands together as magic sparkles. He triggers teleport and vanishes right in front of the soldiers and Director Han. Director Han is left standing mouth open in an empty treasure room, stuck facing the entire military mess alone. Juyeon relaxes at home, watching the news broadcast cover how the association contained the recent incident. He heads over to his allies, hanging out in his penthouse living room. Kim Hae-jae happily shows off her new staff, saying a high-tier dungeon drop deserves to be hyped for months. Juyeon waters his plants, amused that the news isn't mentioning North Korea at all. He tells the group he dropped off his registration forms at the association and bumped into Director Han. Poor Director Han looked completely exhausted and turned gray from all the stress. Hae-jae turns her attention over to Saintess I am Suha. Suha clutches her green crystal staff, nervously asking if it is really okay for her to accept such a weapon. Hae-jae gives her a warm smile and reassures her. Suha sits next to Hae-jae and warmly thanks her for the gift. Juyeon smirks fondly while listening to their wholesome moment. Hae-jae turns to Juyeon to ask about the rest of their item claims. She mentions Sang-wook Kim was happy taking the Ring of Defense. She asks Juyeon what he ended up choosing for himself. Juyeon explains he took the soil where the world tree stood to nurture his seed of plague. A glowing purple fruit begins to take shape and ripen on the bonsai branch. Flashing back to the field claim area, Juyeon greeted the group in high spirits. Director Han was clutching his neck, nearly losing his mind under the pressure. Eager raiders cheered, waiting for the official loot distribution to start. Juyeon looked through the reward choices while everyone clamored for gear. Inspecting a red dagger, our boy realized none of the standard gear options were actually useful to him. He turned around when a familiar voice thanked him for saving her. Haeju stood there with a warm smile, greeting him cheerfully. Juyeon was caught off guard, asking if she was feeling better. He asked what she meant back in the cavern about someone missing him. Haeju pointed out the specialized dirt where the field boss had taken root. She suggested that planting something unique in boss-rooted soil would make it grow exceptionally well. Director Han interrupted to ask Juyeon which field item he wanted to claim. Director Han stared in confusion when Juyeon started talking to thin air. Juyeon turned back and realized Haeju had vanished without a trace. Director Han pressed him to hurry up and pick his reward. Juyeon decided to take the specialized boss soil. Back in the present, the cultivated plant finishes ripening its strange purple fruit. The system confirms he successfully cultivated the Egg of Plague, SS. Meanwhile, in an active field, a squad of hunters engages a giant green lizard monster. A hunter shouts a desperate warning as the beast snaps back. The lizard monster crashes down hard after taking a heavy blow to its tail. The raid party presses the offensive, surrounding the creature with everything they have. The leader steps up to call for the final strike. A massive blast rocks the battlefield, finishing off the target. The hunters finally catch their breath after securing the win. They stand victorious over the cleared raid zone. Shadowy figures lurk in the tree line, watching the exhausted raid party. A masked raider draws his blade in the shadows, preparing to strike. Chaos erupts as the ambushing raiders launch a sudden surprise attack. The ambush leader advances with a cold glare. Sparks fly as the defenders desperately block incoming sword strikes. Juyeon watches the conflict unfold with sharp eyes under his hood. Our boy reveals his presence, flaring his dark aura as he steps into the fight. Lin Zioling sits in her office and kicks off a covert assignment. Her operative asks if backup is needed for infiltrating the American raid team. He turns back with complete confidence, insisting he can steal the C-rank boss item entirely on his own. Over in the wasteland of fury, the raid captain leaps directly into the fray. The hunters coordinate their front line, drawing monster aggro so their ranged dealers can stay safe. The captain slashes right through incoming waves of enemies to clear a path. He looks down and notices a blood-stained document lying on the ground. The paper displays a hunter's profile stamped with a deceased status. His eyes glow red as memories of past sacrifices surface. He remembers a fallen comrade who faced death head-on in battle. Fueling his rage, the captain erupts in an intense dark aura. He suddenly turns as a dangerous chemical splash cuts across the field. Corrosive acid sprays everywhere, prompting a desperate warning for the team to dodge. The captain instantly channels magic through a glowing circle to launch a counterstrike. The giant rock golem field boss towers over the remaining raiders. Muhammad Al finishes off the beast and absorbs its soul energy. The raiders cheer wildly as the system confirms the C-rank field is cleared. Muhammad Al lets out a tired sigh, relieved the fight is finally over. Unstable shockwaves suddenly tear across the sky, ruining their moment of rest. The raiders look up in shock, realizing the raid is far from complete. A dark rift splits open right in midair. Giant clawed hands grab the edges and force the dimensional tier wider. A creepy clown face grins through the void with glowing eyes. High Demon Kernendo steps through the dimensional rift and enters Earth. His power rewrites reality, shifting the wasteland into a carnival domain. Trapped raiders look up at the towering demon with dread. Muhammad Al steps up and braces for immediate combat. Kernendo stands tall in his jester outfit, looking down at them. The demon chuckles, admitting he is thrilled to see living humans after so long. Multi-language translations float around as he introduces himself as Kernendo. He bows theatrically, revealing his status as a high demon. The captain demands to know why he crossed over to their world. Kernendo lines right into his face, enjoying the question. He points to Earth, revealing that his target is their entire dimension. Grinning with sharp fangs, he explains that the demon realm has dried up. He proudly declares that the demons are here to invade. Kernendo holds out a pair of demonic dice and proposes a simple game to settle things. The captain stares back, deeply suspicious of the offer. Muhammad Al tightens his gloves and steps up to accept the high-stakes gamble. The demonic dice hover in the center of the domain table. Kernendo kicks off the first roll with a flick of his wrist. The The dice spin rapidly through the air, wrapped in dark energy. The first roll lands, revealing the initial face. Kernendo watches the result with intense amusement. The system processes the game conditions and updates the board. Kernendo claps his hands with glee as the game gets underway. Mohammed Al channels his energy into the second roll. The dice tumble wild across the glowing domain board. They land on a bad result, triggering the game's penalty system. Demonic tendrils shoot up from the floor and drag a hunter down. Kernendo laughs as the stakes become painfully clear. Mohammed Al raises his hand to keep his panic-stricken team from breaking rank. Kernendo gestures forward, eager to run the final roll. Silence falls across the domain as everyone holds their breath. The demon's eyes gleam with malicious intent as he tries to manipulate the outcome. The final dice tumble through the clearing smoke and settle on the board. The system UI calculates the total score for the match. Mohammed Al's eyes flash as he turns the trick back on the demon. He ignites a flame barrier that shields his team from the immediate backlash. Realizing he was outplayed, Kernendo expands into a furious demonic form. The demon unleashes his full power as the chapter cuts to a cliffhanger.